Hello and welcome to Giant Mess, a sloppy sports entertainment talk show about the New York Giants, the New York Mets, movies, TV, comedy, and a whole lot more. It's hosted by a giant mess. That's me, the Real Cinch Neal Lynch. I'm a plump and furry Irish Italian American who graduated from a Catholic high school but isn't Catholic, and also graduated from a college known for producing doctors and lacrosse players, and then became neither. Instead, I'm a father, a son, an uncle, a brother, a cousin, a friend, and a whole bunch of other shit. You can leave a voicemail, 862-BIT-1986. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just do a quick little search for Real Cinch. I'm also Real Cinch on Twitter and Instagram. My official blog is neallynch.com. That's NEALLYNCH. And you can check me out on Facebook. If you're an advertiser, you might be boycotting Facebook right now. That doesn't mean you have to boycott visiting it. You can just boycott, advertising on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/giantmess. You can also subscribe to Giant Mess on Apple Podcasts. If you're not listening on Apple Podcasts, I'm also on Spotify, Audio Mac, Google Podcasts, everywhere, dude. I dare you to pick a platform that has podcasts that I'm not on. On this episode, this is the debut episode of season 2. Season 1 finale. I said we're going to come back with a vengeance in season 2, and it's a lie. We still have the same setup here. The over-the-ear headphones no longer work on the microphone. I was going to upgrade my camera, upgrade my whole setup. Didn't happen. So, that's just typical Neal Lynch. You really want to promise high and then not fulfill on that promise. Oversell and underdeliver. That's who I am. On this episode, season 2 premiere, we'll discuss the morning show a little bit. It's the Apple TV Plus drama that has a lot of comedy actors. Well, I'll give you my thoughts on Fantasy Island, The Vast of Night, and Greyhound. I'll break down the Mets 60-game schedule. We'll go over the best and worst case scenarios for the Giants. Philly.com's chirping us, of course, with their annual 10 reasons the Giants will be a dumpster fire this season. And then we'll give you the latest on DeAndre Baker and see how that goes. Oh, boy. So let's dive right into it. It's been a while since I've talked to you guys. I think I recorded last on July 1st and published the show, the season 1 finale on July 2nd, the morning of July 2nd. We had kind of a summer Friday set up that Thursday. Had that Friday off from work, which was great. Went to the pool. We belong to a pool, a community pool. I guess it's not a public pool. It's not free. I'm not, read into that how you will. I pay to go to a pool. I mean, come on. I don't know. I guess that makes me the 1%. So I'm a 1%er. Good, great, wonderful, grand. We saw an elderly man, possibly a grandfather, berating a small child for whining and complaining. And I remember seeing it and hearing it, heard it first, and then I saw it, and it's just a very decrepit. It didn't look like a war hero by any means. It didn't look like, Jack LaLanne or whoever that is, like an old man who's in good shape. This looked like a man on his way to crumbling, just evaporating into dust, disintegrating upon impact. But he was, hunched over, long white hair, pure blinding snow white hair. And this kid was just, I didn't hear him whining or complaining, so it must have been whimpering, kind of down low whining. And this grandfather took it to his ass. I mean, shut the fuck up, sit the fuck down. I will punch you in the fucking face. I will fucking kill you. So, yeah. And, I'm not right next to this guy. I'm kind of on the pool area is significant. It's a large chunk of land. The pool itself, the adult pool, is big. I want to say maybe Olympic sized. I don't know. I haven't swam in a dog's age, a fortnight. So it's got lanes. It's got a diving area, deep end, There's also a baby pool. That's where we usually lay up and lay down, you know, post up. But this old gentleman was just going ham on this kid, this little boy. And it looked like the boy's father was right there, not saying a peep, which leads me to believe that the grandfather, that was like the dad was like the son-in-law of the grandfather. Definitely not the son of the father. Because I feel like there would have been a little more pushback there. I don't know. But yeah, made a scene and a half. I think management had to come out and just do a little quick check-in. Like, hey, there's going to be a murder here. It's going to be a homicide. Do I need to loop in the 5-0? What's the lowdown on this situation? And I'm pretty sure that boy is traumatized for life. I mean, I can't imagine that memory ever going away unless he just completely blacks it out. Completely possible. Not saying it isn't possible, but cool baby. That's rough. I ended up running into a buddy who I used to hang out with in Hoboken and down the shore. It's just insane how things have changed since the Hoboken days. You know, it's just like I was just kind of in a haze, in a fog, just standing in a 1 foot of water in the baby pool, just kind of like baking in the sun. And he was just like, Neal? And I was like, whoa. Hey, what's up, dude? And he's like, oh, this is my wife and 2 kids. And I was like, this is my wife and my kid. And it's like, we didn't have wives and kids when we were hanging out. So it's like interesting to see how much time has passed and what's gone down since then. And it's interesting to see how parents are handling like COVID in addition to strangers. There's like there's helicoptering is a parent method, as a parent style. And then there's like helicoptering with COVID in the mix. It's like, normally you would try and entertain the strange kid that just wandered up and thinks you're his daddy. But now it's just like, you're just like stiff arming him away. Get away. Social distance. It's like, there was another kid who was just like inches from my face. I was just laying in the baby pool on my stomach because, my daughter was doing the same. I thought solidarity in numbers. And this little kid just was like inches from my face. Like the whole thing that kids don't have COVID or can't get COVID. I don't know if that's been disproven yet. But it's just, I really hope it's not like smoking was or vaping is, I guess, kind of currently, where like 10, 15, 20 years down the line, these kids are going to develop horrible mutations based on like the amount of COVID pumping through their veins. And all because we were like, well, we thought it didn't affect you. It's also because, well, we can't get a freaking mask on you. Like it just won't stay on you. We have to like staple it to your temples. Yeah, Breeze Daycare opened back up 7/6 Monday. And I was a little hesitant. I was a little cautious and weary. I was like, so it's just open, huh? There's just no guidelines or rules or anything. And eventually it's like, I came to learn, okay, they got some stuff in place. And but still I'm a little on edge about it. And we both, my wife and I both get dressed up to drop off our daughter at daycare because it's such a special occasion. This has been almost 4 months in the making of us just grueling and grinding and trying to get through and survive every day with this little bundle of joy that has become a tropical storm. Tropical Storm Faye. I mean, Faye is her middle name, and she was a tropical storm throughout this process. And so we actually got dressed up, like showered and got dressed up to drop her off at daycare because it's such a huge moment for us. And I remember they set up a table outside, lady with a mask and wearing gloves. They have like the temperature gun which looks cool as hell, but I later found out is just not effective. Like it's just not accurate whatsoever. So I was like, why don't we have a temperature gun? And my wife was like, well, it doesn't work. And I was like, okay, so this is just all show. This is all just show now. That's cool. So yeah. So they did a temperature gun on Bree's forehead, and I was holding Bree. And then she's like, all right, where's your bag of stuff? You know, just like diapers, wipes, food, clothing, blankets, whatever you got to give to us, you know, hand that over. She takes the bag back first into the building, all the way to the room, comes back for the kid. And then I put Bree down, and we start saying bye to Bree. And Bree my daughter thinks that we're saying bye to the lady. Like, oh, well, you know, you have your stuff now, lady, whatever that bag of stuff was. Be on your way. We got to get back to the house where I'm going to like torture my parents. And then we're like, no. We're saying bye to you. The lady then picks up Bree, and she does like this. She's like getting really good at this. The kind of cry that is an open, like as far open as your mouth can be, just as far as your little mouth can stretch. That's how far open Bree's mouth was as she's trying to cry. But it's like such a shock to her that she's being removed from her parents that she can't create the noise to go with the open mouth cry. And she did it and it's a long ass hallway. And I saw her walk the entire hallway down before making a right and turning the corner. And I was just like, that is brutal. We kind of knew that was coming, but it's one thing to know and another thing to see. And her daycare has a camera live feed set up. So I'd check in on that. And she's fine. She's just like walking around, and like, you know, the two kids. So this is the other thing. I thought there was going to be like a ton of kids. They're all going to be just licking each other and coughing all over each other and just generally just exchanging all kinds of fluids, and just ripe for co-ed COVID, I guess you'd call it. And I look on the camera one day, it was her and two other kids. The other two kids were like in sync, not the band, but if they were a boy band, it would be in sync. Just like sitting down across from each other, eating at the same time with their drinks in front of them. And then Bree's just like running around like a mad woman in the background, just touching everything. The teacher is like trying to tell them a story or playing with them on the ground. The two are sitting nicely in position and formation, looking at the teacher. And Bree is just standing, like looking at them like, yeah, you guys are suckers, and just like causing mayhem everywhere she went. And then the next day I check on the camera, and she's the only kid in the room. I mean, day one was 3 kids. Day 2 is like just her. You're at that point where it's like, are we making the wrong move here? Like at first I'm concerned that there's going to be too many kids and they're going to be everywhere, and it's just, you know, viruses flying left and right. And now it's like, whoa, she's the only kid. Have we made a huge mistake? So I don't know. Good thing I have my wife here to like balance me out and be like, no, you're just insane in the membrane. Yeah, so she went back to daycare and back to school, which was great. So now we get a little peace and quiet at home. She does not I'm checking on the camera, and she's like kind of, you know, she's running around, but she's behaving. I don't see her throwing fits or tantrums. The moment she gets back in this house, it's like, it's on, motherfucker. It's like, I'm now going to unleash the beast. Like no holds barred. Okay. Let's drop the gloves. Let's get it on. Let's get ready to rumble. Like, it's just amazing how she flips the switch and is just like, today, Monday, July 13th, as I record this, my wife walked in with her screaming. She has been screaming for the most part nonstop. It's now 10:08 p.m. I read her. We have a big ass thick book of nursery rhymes that my sister gave me. That is, I don't know where this is like the weirdest, most depraved book of nursery rhymes I've ever seen in my life. Nursery rhymes as a whole, we forget that nursery rhymes are just fucked. They're just completely messed up. And this book just doubles down on that. because there's some nursery rhymes that I recognize, but they've like twisted a little bit. Like it's not the itsy bitsy spider, it's the incy wincy spider. What? Okay, I feel like they didn't get the copyright to they didn't get like the rights to reprint the traditional nursery rhyme, so they just like tweaked, and it's like the Hydrox of nursery rhyme books. It's not the Oreos, it's the Hydrox, you know? It's not the Fig Newtons, it's whatever the other friggin' Fig Newton from faux fake Newton that is. And there's some other ones mixed in there. It's like, how the hell is this a nursery rhyme? Cobbler, have my order, 2:30. No, that's too late. Have it 8:30. What? There's just a lot of them. I mean, I almost want to do like a whole blog or video on how fucked these nursery rhymes are. I mean, more than half of them are about killing, about like, I mean, the Me Too movement would have a fucking field day with this book. So I just had to read her half the book. She loves this book. And I'm like, you're going to grow up to be Ghislaine Maxwell. No, that's wrong. No, she's not. But I just don't think we should be reading this book to her anymore. I have to like edit and censor like half the stuff because there's a lot of mention of cock and pussy in this book. And yes, cock is a bird. It's a rooster. And yes, pussy's a cat, feline. I get it. But every other rhyme, nursery rhyme, we can't say cat. We can't say rooster. We say cock and pussy. Whew. So I'd read her half of that just to get her down, just to sedate her enough to put her in the crib. She's been screaming bloody murder for 4 fucking hours. So that's where I'm at. And today's also the 14th anniversary of my father passing. So there's that. And there's always that weird feeling I get where it's like, you know, everyone sends their love and their thoughts and their, you know, good vibes, you know, saying they're sorry and it's sad and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, it's tough. And I wonder if I talked to him today, what the hell he would have told me about my daughter, his granddaughter, blowing out her vocal cords for 4 hours. I don't even understand how she had a voice left. I mean, not just like whimpering, whining, you know, that kind of thing. Maybe I should have brought in the old dude from the pool and he would have come in and been like, shut the fuck up, sit the fuck down. I'll fucking kill you. I'll punch you in the fucking face. Maybe that's what I need. A little old school. And that's what was running through my head when that old dude was yelling at the pool. Old school parenting. Yeah, we got to get back to that. But 4th of July weekend was good. You know, Friday we had off. Like I said, we went down to, after the pool, we went down to a friend's place. She had left for the weekend, so we got the whole place to ourselves. Sister-in-law came down. And we went to this place called Tommy's on Oceans Avenue. My daughter broke a plate because that's like her thing now. She's got to just destroy everything. Just destruction across the board, nonstop. She's a little mini Godzilla. And as soon as she broke the plate, someone yelled, "Opa!" And that was a nice little, it made me feel better. The waiter appeared to be pissed. I will say that. Appeared to be very pissed. I had a couple Miami Vices in my system because we had to wait a little bit for the table. Got some Miami Vices. And this guy was like, one of the security guys was like trying to talk to me as I'm like waiting by the high top, drinking my Miami Vice. And I'm trying to like participate in this group chat that I know. This group chat, like this fantasy football group chat I'm in, it's like I'm basically on the outs. I get a pretty good sense of these things. And like when they're all in the same fraternity and I'm not in that fraternity, I actually de-pledged that fraternity and joined another fraternity, even though I was still on the same baseball team as a lot of these guys and football team as a lot of these guys. And even though I was invited to this fantasy football league, it was like maybe there were some different expectations there. And now I'm not meeting those expectations. And like I'm horrible in this group chat. I keep making bad jokes and they're not laughing at it. And they make fun of me and they laugh at all these other jokes. And they kind of just put me down. And like I try to troll people and it never works. It backlash when I try to troll people. And then they come in at me. And then they just added 2 other guys 3 other guys, and it's just like they're just like, hey, I get it. You want these other guys in the fantasy football league. Just ask me to leave. This whole like, you know, this whole purgatory that I'm in is just like drives me insane. If you want me out, just say, hey, no room for you, or we want this guy to come in. You know, don't do this weird kind of freeze me out situation. Or maybe they're not. I don't know. It's just the mental havoc I wreak on myself. I don't even know how I got to that point. Anyway, oh yeah, I was talking on the group chat with trying to you know, because the Washington Redskins team name changing has been like this one guy, these two guys have been just going back and forth with just like awful team names. And I was going to like chime in with some team names that I thought were going to work, and it just didn't work out. Of course, one of them is Red Tails. That's the one being thrown around now. And people are like, whoa, it's really great. You're honoring the Tuskegee Airmen in Alabama. Maybe the first all black crew of pilots. Probably got that wrong. So you're going from Redskins derogatory slur for Native Americans to the other end of the spectrum where you're honoring a minority, historical minority, groundbreaking minority. And I was thinking to myself, yeah, but it's like, and there's a Jets fan in the group chat. Okay. Jets fan in the group chat. I thought, perfect opportunity to troll this motherfucker. I used to do a podcast with him. I probably should still be doing that podcast with him. I don't know why we stopped. It was just one of those things where I don't know. And so I thought, here's an opportunity to like knock him and all the Jets fans in the group chat. I'm going to say like Red Tails, what a stupid name for a team. What professional team, what professional organization would be so dumb to have their mascot be an airplane? I thought, okay, you know, that would be a nice little chirp at the Jets Nation, gangrene. And then a Skins fan comes out of nowhere and says, well, your last name is a slur, a derogatory slur. And I'm thinking, first of all, this is not between me and you, Skins fan. This is between, like, I know I said it was Red Tails is a dumb name, but that was actually a troll against the Jets guy. Okay, not you, Jets guy. Jets guy, of course, was too busy living life like you should on a Friday and didn't respond. So then everyone went in on me and laughed at me for having the last name Lynch, which apparently is a slur, which is not a slur. It's slang for hanging. It's also, you know, eventually was determined that, oh, yeah, it's actually Gaelic Irish, you know, which stood for, a sailor or a mariner. And then I made the inappropriate joke about how, well, mariners do know how to tie a knot. And then it was like, we're back to square one. You know, can't win them all. So yeah, Red Tails. I don't know that I would be excited about that name if I were a Redskins fan, to be honest, TBH. But, you know, it depends on, you know, I've seen a lot of mock-ups too online on Twitter, Instagram of like what the design concept would be for Red Tails. And, you know, it's all right, I guess. I just think you could do better. You could do better. But if that's the reaction, like in order to erase all this like 33 to 20, 80 plus years of horrible negative history around, you know, Redskins, then to do Red Tails, I don't know. They have a huge opportunity at hand now, and I guess there was supposed to be a huge announcement today. And it's like, did they make it? Was the announcement that they were going to retire the name, or was it an announcement that they were going to actually like reveal the name? And I think they just ended up retiring it. Right? That's kind of what I don't know. Warriors. Apparently some real estate agent in Maryland just bought up like $20,000 worth of copyrights on all the possible names that the Redskins were entertaining. I don't know if he got Warriors though, because I remember Warriors being trademarked by Snyder a while ago. Warriors is fine. I mean, there's Golden State Warriors, which is kind of, I don't like sharing a professional team name with another professional team. I mean, New York Giants, San Francisco Giants. People say, well, why do you say the New York Football Giants? It's like, well, there was the New York Baseball Giants, and yeah, they moved for a while ago, but you gotta like, Anyway, yeah. So I had a couple Miami Vices, and the security guy comes over and he's trying to talk to me, and it's like, I'm like, what? When you're like, if I have the kid, my wife and my sister-in-law go get the drinks, and I'm on the phone like group chatting, and like, what made you come over and like start to talk to me about the kid in the stroller? I don't know. Like, keep your head on a swivel, guy. There's a lot of other things you should be watching. The whole like, I don't know that the masks do anything. I don't know. I mean, I like wearing the mask. My wife got like 6 face coverings for me, face masks for me. I love wearing the mask. I don't know why it's a political thing, but I just feel fucking badass in the mask. I loved, and I talked about this before, like wearing like a ski mask, or like not a ski mask. It was a mask that you wear if you were to go, like a face guard type thing with Velcro. So it's not a ski mask that you pull over your head, but it's one that you kind of Velcro around, protects your nose, cheeks, like the face below the eyes, pretty much. And I used to wear that in the dead of winter last year, walk into the New York Post building from Port Authority, and I felt like a goddamn ninja. I felt very cool, very badass. People got scared. You come up from behind on someone wearing that mask, people moved the fuck out of the way, or they got real spooked. Luckily, no one had a knee-jerk reaction with an actual weapon. That would have ended poorly, because I don't have any kind of defense mechanism or system other than humor. Humor can't deflect the knife. So I like wearing the mask, but yeah, there have been plenty of times where I just forget I'm wearing the mask. And this is where people get so, like, I think, people think I'm critical and like hypercritical or whatever, judgmental. Like, you just forget that you're wearing, I forget. Maybe it's because, I don't know, I took too many shots to the face and like half my face is numb, so I don't feel the mask on me. But like, if I get in the car with the mask, wearing the mask, and turn the car on and start driving, I just forget I have the mask on. Likewise, plenty of times I've left where I've been and just forget my mask. It's just not ingrained in my brain yet. Yeah, but the way, I think you can tell when someone's pissed, even when they're wearing the mask. Like, you can just tell by the eyes, the cold, dark doll eyes of a doll, that they're just not. They don't want to be there. They're not happy about being there, but it's like they're kind of forced to be there. And yeah, I don't know. So that was Friday. And then that night, I convinced everyone to watch the unrated edition of Fantasy Island, and my sister-in-law fell asleep, and my wife had to go to bed about like less than halfway through. I'll give my review in a little bit, but I think it's one of those so bad it's good movies. Let's put that out there as a little tease. 4th of July, my wife did everyone a solid by getting up super early and going down to the beach and getting daily passes. Of course, I drove everyone down, realized that I did not bring the cooler with all the drinks and the snacks and whatnot, and also forgot a bunch of other stuff. So I had to circle back, drop them off, went back. Of course, the bridge comes up. Call it the bridge coming up. If you're familiar with the Jersey Shore, there's a bridge coming to the shore, out of the shore. And when that sucker goes up, it takes forever to go up and forever to go down. So that was an hour just going back to the house and coming back with all the shit. And then, of course, trying to find parking, free parking at the shore. Forget about it. I went into the free parking, not the free parking. It's not even free parking. The parking lot, the municipal parking lot, whatever, for the beach. You still have to pay to park there. And you go in and it's just, everything's taken. Every spot is taken. But there are at least 5 or 6 other cars circling and swarming like sharks, trying to get a spot, just waiting, like following, like slowly creeping behind people walking. And you think they're walking to their car. And then you find out like, hey, we were just getting our sunscreen from the car. We forgot to get our drink from the car. We're just going to grab that from our car and we're going back. Oh, okay, great. We'll walk a little slower next time. Then you have the couple that's slowly walking and looking around as if to say, where did we park? But then walking through the entire parking lot and crossing the street and going somewhere else. And it's like, you can't do that. You can't do that. Be aware of your situation. Be aware of your surroundings. People are dying to get a parking spot. There was a point where 2 women were walking to the beach and they pointed out the spot to me. I took off, and by the time I got there, someone's backing in. I mean, it got to the point where you're slowly creeping down one aisle, and you're looking down each row, almost like you're looking for someone at the grocery store. That's the kind of like feeling you get, or the vibe it is. It's like you're just trying to slowly look down each row or each aisle, just in the hopes that you'll catch a glimpse of something, and then you can beeline it for it. And I did, and I was in the wrong row, and I hauled ass. And we're on gravel, so I definitely like kicked up a couple rocks, probably hit a couple kids, broke a window. It doesn't matter. I got the spot. But damn, it took me fucking probably half an hour, more than half an hour to finally get a spot. And you see the same people circling and swarming, and you actually get to know them a little bit. You're like, hey, Arizona Jeep, how you doing? Pennsylvania Wagon, what's up? You know, it's like you get to know them. They almost become family, or at least worthy foes. I'll say that. Of course, before that, I go down Ocean Ave a little bit more, and Donovan's Reef is right down there on the left. And there's like this heavy set woman, older type, in a lawn chair, just kind of like gut out, foop out. And I pull in and I roll down my window and I say, hey, do you have any spots available? Any spots open? And she says, you come in here? And I said, no, I'm going to the beach. And she goes, nah. I was just like, oh boy. Woo. Way to lay down the law. You letting the power get to your head a little bit? I mean, it's $10 spots. I almost threw her 20 and been like, time me. So I had to back out of that. There was another lot that was like $20 a spot. It's just like, oh boy. Whew. And Saturday just got torched at the beach. You don't know it. And that's the thing that stinks about sunburns, is like, you think you got it. Like, I put on 30 SPF, 50 SPF, every square inch of my body. I mean, if you threw like a black light over it, you'd be like, flawless victory. And then you get back, and like hour, 2 hours later, maybe you're out of the shower, getting dressed. You're like, holy, there's like a sliver of red running from the crevice of my armpit down the side into like my love handle. What the actual fuck? The spray is just pointless. I hate the spray. The spray is a guaranteed sunburn. The no ads is what I use, because I love the no ads. It's a nice thick lotion. You can see it. And yeah, I look like a goddamn, what is it called? Albino, but I don't care. Protecting the skin. I have to. Which made Sunday even tougher. Go back to the beach, and we were there less than 2 hours. Just couldn't take the heat. I mean, it was just like, didn't matter how much lotion I applied everywhere. It was just like you could feel it searing into the subdermal layers. I guess the highlight of that trip on Sunday was sitting next to 2 of the most bitter women on this great planet that we have. I mean, One's a blonde, one's a dark-haired lady. I think they're friends. Maybe they're stepsisters. Whatever they are, didn't seem like the relationship was on good terms. Because, I mean, just North Jersey bickering. It reminded me of my 90-plus-year-old grandmother and her 90-plus-year-old sister. When I'm trying to sleep in, the study room, the office room, and they're in the kitchen at like 1 a.m, just lobbing just cracks and little bites at each other. Oh, you cook chicken? Why would you cook chicken for him? Chicken, you got to get beef or steak. I mean, well, I love chicken. I like the way chicken tastes. And it's just like, guys, chicken. We can't be arguing and bickering about chicken. That's what these two girls were doing. I got to the point where I thought we were on Punk'd. I thought we were on a prank show, like Ridiculousness or something, where it's like someone's going to come out and hand me $100. Be like, man, I cannot believe that you withstood that you were within earshot of that and you didn't get up and say anything. Here's $100. The one girl was like, the one girl's looking through her purse. The other one's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's like, I'm looking for my eye drops. Do you want me to announce it to the whole beach? It's like, I mean, you kind of already did. You are right now. You're getting eye drops. Good for you. The one girl gets up and is like, I'm going to the bathroom. And she's like, I don't need to know. Why are you telling me? I don't care. It's like, ugh, okay. The best exchange was, I mean, this happened several times where the one girl, the blonde girl, goes, I'm done. I'm done with you and I'm done with your family, and stood up and said, I'm done. And I'm like, oh, well, thank God this is over. I mean, it's been a hoot. It's been quite a ride. Thanks for the entertainment, but so glad it's over. And then I kind of looked to my right and I looked to my left, and the girl's sitting back down again and looking at her phone, scrolling through her phone. I was like, didn't you just have an outburst in front of everyone and then you stayed? You're supposed to storm off. Usually I'm done means I'm done. You leave. You're gone. You're done. Nope. She said I'm done to her like 1,000 times. The kicker was, I think it was an argument about money. It was like, well, it's my birthday and you didn't get me a present. And the other girl goes, you didn't give me a Christmas present. And the other girl goes, I forgot. Well, I mean, tit for tat, lady, if you're not going to get her a Christmas gift, what are you going to expect to get a birthday present? And then she throws this at the other girl. Her daughter, you or the daughter, I don't know. I know that you got Gucci flip-flops. I mean, Gucci flip-flops, people. Why are you buying Gucci flip-flops? A, if you're short on cash. And B, the girl goes, that was 2 years ago. And it's like, okay, like, can we not do this? You got Gucci flip-flops, probably overpriced. They're flip-flops. I mean, come on. But that was 2 years ago. And you got your hair did and your nails done. And it's like, I don't know. And it's just, oof. Would love to know the backstory on that, but probably not. Actually, don't. No, thanks. It's probably not great. Yeah, so that was 4th of July weekend. Whew. Just trying to deal with the toddler. She's going to be 2 in September. And she is just not having it. I mean, we throw everything at this broad, including the kitchen sink. I mean, at one point, my wife was just standing there in the corner of the kitchen, just pointing at random things, hoping that her daughter would just say yes and nod yes. And then she wouldn't nod yes and say yes. And then we'd bring her the thing that she nodded yes to, and she would be like, no. And it's like, all right, we need you to start talking ASAP. We need you to start full on sentences. No more of the cutesy words here and there. We need full on sentences from you. So that's life. Love to know what my father thought. What my father thinks about about everything that's going on. He probably would have some very strong opinions about COVID, the Giants, all that. All right, so let's talk the morning show. We'll keep it quick, keep it tight. When did this premiere? There were 10 episodes, premiered November. The first couple premiered. The first 2 premiered November 1st, and then went weekly. So ended up the last episode was right before Christmas, December 20th. Mostly dealt with the Me Too movement. It had created by Jay Carson and Carrie Aaron. Jay Carson was the producer on House of Cards. Carrie Aaron was the producer on Bates Motel and Friday Night Lights. It's an inside look at the lives of people who help America wake up in the morning, exploring the unique challenges faced by the men and women who carry out this daily televised ritual, inspired by Brian Stelter's book, Top of the Morning, Inside the Cutthroat World of Morning TV. There were episodes directed by Mimi Letter, who directed On the Basis of Sex, The Leftovers, Shameless. Also, David Frankel, who did Devil Wears Prada, Entourage, Sex and the City, Band of Brothers. Kevin Bray, who did Insecure, Blackish. Roxanne Dawson, who did This Is Us, The Deuce, and The Americans. Tucker Gates, who directed episodes of Homeland, Ray Donovan, The Sinner. Michelle McLaren, who directed episodes of Better Call Saul, Westworld, Game of Thrones, and will be directing the upcoming Cowboy Ninja Viking movie, which is an idea that Chris Pratt hatched up on Parks and Rec, and also Lynn Shelton, who passed away in May. She directed episodes of AP Bio, Glow, Little Fires Everywhere. I think she might have been married to or dated Mark Maron for a little bit. So director's pretty solid roster there. Writing credits, some good credits here and there. Jeff Augustin, he wrote for Claws, which has been getting okay. I guess they had okay reviews on TNT. It might have been canceled though. Erica Lopez. She wrote episodes of Suits and Bates Motel. Adam Milch. My eyes are completely gone. They're just completely gone. I have no eyes left. Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce and Heart of Dixie, which I wonder if they're going to, with everything that's going on, if they need to change the title of that show, even though it's been off the air for 10 years. The Heart of Red Tails. Kristen Layden, who directed an episode of Blind Spot, J.C. Lee, How to Get Away with Murder, Tori Spear, Bates Motel. So pretty good roster of talent, writing and directing. How about the cast? Well, a lot of comedy actors who have made their money in comedy. Jennifer Aniston is Alex Levy, the co-host of the morning show. Reese Witherspoon is Bradley Jackson, field reporter. Steve Carell as Mitch Kessler, recently fired co-host of morning show. Billy Crudup as Corey Ellison, the UBA executive. Mark Duplass as Charlie Chip Black, executive producer of morning show. I'm going to butcher this. I mean, you want a test of how white this cracker can be? Here we go. Gugu Mbatha Raw. Definitely didn't get that right. As Hannah Schoenfeld, the very, very good performance there. As the head talent booker, Nestor Carbonell as Yanko Flores, meteorologist. He also gave a great performance. Karen Pittman as Mia Jordan. I think I just broke my toe. I didn't even do anything. I broke my toe. Welcome. This is 40, Neil. This is 40. Producer Belle Powley, who I really liked in King of Staten Island as Claire Conway. She's a PA, production assistant. Morning show. She has a secret love affair with Yanko. Deshaun Terry as Daniel Henderson. I think he's gay. Black man who's the co-host of the Weekend Edition, who would like to be the co-host with Alex Levy. Jack Davenport is Jason Gregg, Alex's husband, with whom she is secretly separated from. That was just like, I didn't buy that relationship for a goddamn New York minute. It's a British dude. I mean, far be it from me to comment on looks or anything like that, but I just didn't see how these two, I don't see the chemistry at all. And maybe that's the point. It's like maybe they had the chemistry at one point and now it's just soured so tremendously that it's like I can never envision these two together, but it would have been nice if they at least, I don't know, hinted at it a little bit. Like, what did you, Alex Levy, Jennifer Aniston, ever see in this Jack Davenport, Jason Craig character? Tom Irwin as Fred Micklin, UBA president. Mindy Kaling as Audra, who is with a rival morning show. Brett Butler, not former Dodgers and Mets center fielder Brett Butler, but Brett Butler from Grace Under Fire. Was that the name of the show? 90s. I kind of almost watched it religiously when I was a kid. Did I not? She plays Bradley Jackson's mom, and Martin Short as a very creepy Dick Lundry. 61% of critics gave this a favorable review, while 93% of the audience on Rotten Tomatoes gave it a favorable review, and you can kind of see why. It's the cast, can really carry this show, and I think the critics were not. I don't think the critics were not in love with how the show started. I know I wasn't in love with how the show started, but I really liked how the show ended. It ended with just a furious ball of anger and retribution. So, yeah, I was kind of on the fence about it in the first episode or two. I was just like, this seems like Jennifer Aniston's character, Alex Levy, like going to Mitch Kessler's house and like having a breakdown and saying how her life is over and she's in shambles. And it's like, you're still the co-host making millions of dollars. You have a house here and you have a house there. That's what's so nuts about this is like, you have a bunch of rich people complaining. Well, the talent making the big bucks saying their life is over and how are they going to survive when they have, it's like Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro was quoted recently as saying like, I'm going to butcher this too. He's going to have to find out how to survive on $7.5 million a year or something like that. It's like, wow, you're really rich, huh? When you're struggling. And he got roasted for that. And I'm pretty sure maybe it was taken out of context and but it's just, that's just the mentality of a lot of these celebrities that just make so much goddamn money that when the the money machine goes away, I guess, or when the cash express comes to a halt, they think like it's over for them. And, for a lot of people, it's not. And for a lot of the talent celebrities, it's not about the money, but it's about the legacy. And that's kind of what Mitch Kessler, that is what Mitch Kessler is fighting for throughout this series. Steve Carell gives a wonderful performance. I mean, Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon, Steve Carell. I didn't buy Reese Witherspoon at first as this kind of like rogue character who like doesn't play by the rules and wears a leather jacket. And then I warmed up to her. It was like you could see, of course, they did a great job of painting her in a light that was like, you're not completely sold on her. Like there's a section and a group of, there's a group or section of her colleagues at the morning show that are like, I believe in her. I trust her. She's authentic. She's genuine. She's empowered. And then you have the other sectors like, this is a fucking act. She's pretending. She's doing this because she knows blah, blah, blah. It's to make herself look better, that kind of thing. So I thought that was an interesting angle with her. The viral video of her freaking out on the guy at the coal mine protest. It's like, yeah, it seemed a bit staged and over the top. And like Jennifer Aniston's character, Alex Levy, called her out on it. But there was a nice little repartee between them that happens throughout those series. Like that was a good mano-y-mano between Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon. I thought Jennifer Aniston gave a pretty good performance. She had some really great moments, especially when she broke down a couple times. Once on location, once at the motel or the hotel where the wildfires were happening. And she was getting somewhat closer to Reese Witherspoon. But there are so many mannerisms that she has that remind me of Rachel on Friends. And then I get sucked back into that for a hot second. Like, wait, that's like such a Rachel thing from Friends. It just must be hard to shake because she had played that character for so long. And it's like, how do you separate it? Like, is that her just as an actress, like her quirks and ticks, or is that something she did for Rachel? And it turns out, well, it's probably just Jennifer Aniston coming through. Carell, I mean, like, I think Carell did a really great job as Mitch Kessler. I think he, as a straight white man who, I don't think I've ever had power, but then again, it's kind of goes in line with white privilege, right? For a long time, I was against thinking that I had white privilege. It was like, but I don't have privilege. Like, I'm not super rich. I have not gotten far because of my skin color, but it's like, well, you've actually done better than you would have if you weren't white. I think the same thing kind of applies here when Steve Carell is talking about power, or Mitch Kessler is talking about power. That as a man or a straight man, you do have a certain level of power, even though it's, Mitch Kessler and he has like millions upon millions of dollars and big houses and a huge job. And like, it's also, and like Mark Duplass talked about this recently about like playing that role of Chip Black as the executive producer. He also had a power that he didn't know he had until now. And as a owner of a production company, like he knows that he has a certain power, just being a man. So that's what makes it so tough watching Steve Carell's Mitch Kessler, because it's hard not to think like, oh, well, sometimes he makes a valid point, or at least maybe I saw it as a valid point back when this all was first starting in 2017, where it's like, what if she didn't want that? She should have said no. She should have left. Why did she stay? Why did she not say no? Why, it's like, it's a tough situation to be in. So, but yeah, you can see towards the end, like he is a very like, despicable man. Some fun tidbits I came across: Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon, Steve Carell, and Mimi Leder, who is a director and executive producer, have all denied notions that the show is just the story of disgraced TV personnel Matt Lauer. I mean, okay. Matt Lauer, Mitch Kessler. Matt Lauer is often referred to as like America's dad or fun uncle, I think, right? And they referred to Mitch Kessler as that. The whole like in Mitch Kessler's dressing room, him having a button where it just automatically slams the door shut and locks it, which was a staple of Matt Lauer's office. I'm sure they change enough details and names around or whatnot that it's like you can't get in trouble for it. But it's like, if you're Matt Lauer, like, do you even watch it? And if you do watch it, are you just seething because it's like, ugh, painting me as a monster? But yeah, it's true what Mitch Kessler said, though. It's like, this has been going on for as tales old as time, like human history. Men of power have been sought after, pursued by women or men because of their power. And there are instances where the person pursuing that man of power wants a part of that power, wants to be a part of that power dynamic. And then if things turn sour, there is some pig piling and dog piling that goes on where they can, and it even happened later on in the series with Jennifer Aniston potentially cooking up a story that she could go to the press with about Mitch Kessler that would really be the absolute final nail in the coffin of many final nails in the coffin for him. So, yeah, but then they actually showed like that when they were in Vegas for the shooting, the Mandalay Bay shooting, and he's connects with Hannah, and then there's a part of you where it's like you're seeing it from her perspective, where it's like, okay, this is a father figure, the parental unit that she didn't have because she lost her mother at a young age, I believe. And so she was lost and confused and sad. And she had this older gentleman who was kind of like a father figure, mentorish in that moment, or has been, inviting her up to his room to watch a comedy movie. And it's like to take her mind off of what's going on. Like, yeah, I can totally see how she didn't view that as he's going to try and fuck me or hook up with me, especially when he's married and he has this persona. So, but yeah, it always infuriates me. And I've seen it to a T. I mean, I watched Athlete A on Netflix, a documentary about that fucking creepy doctor at Michigan State who was like molesting all the gymnasts, Olympic gymnasts. I watched the Jeffrey Epstein Filthy Rich on Netflix, that documentary, and it's just like to a T. You don't realize that it's an overwhelming feeling that comes over the victim, the survivor, where they're paralyzed and they're frozen and they can't say anything. And it just never clicked with me until like you start seeing all these women have almost the same exact story of like, I didn't know what to do. I was frozen. I was paralyzed. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. I had an out-of-body experience. I was trying to put myself somewhere else. I was just trying to get through it. All these things. It's tough. We actually just started watching Upload on Amazon Prime Video. And it's like, it's set in the future. And like, there's an app, a hookup app called Nightly. And the female lead, she ends up meeting this guy on the app and then goes back to her place. And they're like, so did you bring protection? And you think she's talking about a condom. And they're like, they both whip out some kind of thing that they stick to the middle of their chest and turns out to be like almost the equivalent of like a body cam. And then they have to like say into the body cam, like, I consent to this. I consent to this. And then they go and do their thing. Sure hope it doesn't get to that. But yeah, just like read the room, I guess, is the best thing. Like as soon as, just read the room. Whew. But this show is definitely about Matt Lauer. I mean, there's no, yeah, for sure. Definitely. And I believe there's been rumors about Matt Lauer trying to like, come up with some kind of viable defense or producing his own thing that shows that he's whatever. Maybe I'm making that up, but I remember hearing that somewhere. Wall Street Journal tabulated that an average of 32 shots per episode contain Apple products, though the producers of the show stated they weren't pressured by Apple to include their products. It's like, no, but here's a bunch of free shit that you can use. It's just there. We put it there. You don't have to use it, but it is free. You don't have to go out and buy a prop. And yeah, everyone's using an iPhone and everyone's using a MacBook and whatnot. So Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon made $2 million per episode. And that does not include the fees from executive producing and points on the series back end, as both are serving as executive producers on the series. Hi-ya-ya-ya. Hot damn. Whew. It's cool, $20 million. Plus. So there are moments where you really don't like Alex Levy, Jennifer Aniston at all. And at first you're introduced to Billy Crudup's Corey Ellison and you're like, this guy's a douche, whatever. And then he ends up becoming like almost my favorite character. I mean, he has the best quote in the whole show. Chaos is the new cocaine. I mean, Jesus, it's the name of the episode 3. He just thrives on it. And, I fully appreciate the bent that they took with, they need to be more authentic and more genuine. And Bradley Jackson brought a certain degree of that to the show. From minute one though, when they open on Chip Black, Mark Duplass on the floor, and he's on the phone, I was like, yep, I got a hunch about this. I got a feeling. The whole series, they're like, who leaked this to the Times? Who leaked this to the Times? Did you leak to the Times? Did you Times? You leak Times? And the whole time I was like, I wavered, but it was like, it's got to be Chip Black. And of course it was Chip Black. That was such a heart-crushing thing in the final episode where he's going up the escalator knowing that he's going to get canned. And coming down the other side of the escalator is Alex Levy, the person that he, like, I guess, grew up with professionally, that they've worked together their whole time together. And then to see her just kind of like not even acknowledge him, just like turn her head, put her head down. It's just like, you bitch. Cannot believe it. Yeah. Apparently me some Mitch. Chip Potts against Fred. Oh boy. I was really hoping they would do the interview. Because Mitch wants to do the interview with Bradley Jackson. And we didn't get to see it. They had a whole like scheme, a plot to have it happen. And it would have been, I like the way they handled it though. The fact that the interview didn't happen. Obviously because spoiler, Hannah OD'd. That kind of derailed everything. But I was looking forward to that. I thought that would be a showdown for the ages. And instead it just ended up being, I don't know what they do for season 2. I really don't. I mean, I know they filmed, I think they filmed before COVID hit. They filmed a couple episodes and then they had to shut down. And now because of COVID, they're going to like end up rewriting a bunch of episodes to accommodate for that. But like the way season 1 ends, it's like, I don't even know how you go from there. Because it was like your 2 co-hosts of the morning show. It's all, G-rated, PG-rated, squeaky clean, just dropping all kinds of like profanity on national broadcast that they eventually had to cut short. So, yeah, I would say I would go in between. I would not, if we're going out of 100, I would not do a 61. I would not do a 93. I'd probably split the diff, 172. Yeah, I'd say probably like high 70s, low 80s, maybe. Definitely interested in season 2 because I don't know how or where you go from there. I really don't. I just know that Fred Micklin is effed. It was interesting though when they showed, there was one episode where they kind of walked you through like a day in the life when Mitch was at the top of his game and was still the co-host. I thought that was very interesting because there were what, and I hate this term, but like, and there are a bunch of terms that I just hate that are popping up now, but microaggression, because there's a bunch of things that they sound different from what they are. That's just like a branding issue. It's like they're not worded correctly, but I guess that's the point. They want it to sound harsh so that you pay attention to it, but it actually turned me off. Microaggression. So you could say, watching as the camera follows Mitch Kessler through his day, through the studio, his interactions with everyone. Yeah, I guess there are little microaggressions here and there. Hey, I like the way that dress looks on you. Should a married man be commenting on a woman's blah, 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 blah? Oh, that dress should be shorter. What do you think, Alex? Should that dress be shorter? And like joking, and like everyone's kind of laughing and joking. You don't get that sense of discomfort that would normally set off bells or alarms or whistles that like, hey, this is wrong. People were kind of going along with it. They're laughing along with it. And you don't get the sense in real time because it's not dramatized, not like extreme close up on them being like, squinting, and like you don't feel the gravitas of what's being said or done. Fucking microaggressions, which I hate that term, but like you could see it was happening because it's like the things he's saying, you could see, like, if you pull out that quote and put it on paper where there's no tone, inflection, or like surrounding context, it's like, wow, it's pretty bad. But like in the moment, in the environment, it seemed like it was kosher. So I can see why Mitch Kessler is upset, because it's like, why did no one fucking tell me? Everyone seemed okay with it. It's like, well, because you wielded that kind of power, which you kind of, that was hard for me to, I guess, accept over the course of the series. It's like, well, Mitch Kessler makes a couple of good points here and there, but they also, it's because of your status that you can't, all these people, not all, but most of these people feared consequence or losing their job or whatever. So that's the morning show. I recommend you give it a watch. If you're still, if you tuned out for the spoilers, it's worth a watch for sure. There were some ratings on IMDb for morning show. I'll run through them. I mean, the last episode I think got the highest ratings with a 9.7 out of 10. The next highest would be That Woman, which was episode 4. Yeah. Premiere, not so. I mean, the premiere is rated as one of the lowest. But I really thought that the Yanko Claire relationship was going to somehow come back to bite Bradley Jackson in the ass, because Bradley Jackson's going after the network. She's going after Mitch. She's going after Fred. She's going after the culture. And then to have her hire Claire as her personal assistant, as Claire is having this secret affair with Yanko, I thought that was going to definitely come back to bite Bradley in the ass. Be like, well, so you're investing in this, but this is happening right under your nose. And of course, it didn't happen that way. I thought maybe that would have been a better way to have that subplot turn out. Like somehow that comes back to bite Bradley. I just thought that would be a nice little conclusion or development. But like, yeah, Hannah Schoenfeld, the woman who plays Hannah Schoenfeld, just like gut-wrenching performance. So I wonder if she'll get nominated for any awards, because that storyline was it was tough to swallow. All right, so moving on to movies. A couple of news items. Could Joel Schumacher's darker, longer Batman Forever cut ever get released? I mean, if we're getting the Snyder cut, we're getting the Snyder cut, first of all, on HBO Max for Justice League. Why not give us the Schumacher cut of Batman Forever, which I fucking loved Batman Forever when I was in high school, when I was a freshman, sophomore in high school. That was a good summer. You get like the Batman Forever like cup at McDonald's when you order the supersized meal, souvenir cup. Jim Carrey, who I was like in love with at the time. Tommy Lee Jones, who had a nice little run there in the 90s. Even like friggin' hell yeah. Was it Nicole Kidman? I think. As the professor. And then of course, I can't believe I can't remember his name. Thought he was a pretty good Batman. Not Keaton. He was in MacGruber. He was also in The Island of Dr. Moreau. It's amazing how these names escape you on the spot. I was going to do my top 6 composer and Ennio Morricone passed away. And if you don't know who that is, look him up because he's composed some of the best soundtracks out there. Most recently for The Hateful Eight. Quentin Tarantino was a big time fan. Shouted him out a couple times at awards, I believe. I was going to do a rundown of the top 6 Independence Day movies, but that was back when I was trying to do this closer to Independence Day. So maybe I'll send this for next Independence Day. We'll get into Fantasy Island, though. Let's talk Fantasy Island. PG-13, hour and 49 minutes, adventure fantasy horror. Came out Valentine's Day, 2020. Synopsis. When the owner and operator of a luxurious island invites a collection of guests to live out their most elaborate fantasies in relative seclusion, chaos quickly descends. This is like a horror adaptation of the hit show that ran in the 70s on ABC, I want to say. It had, I want to say, Ricardo Montalban as like Mr. Rourke, the head of the island. And then he had like a little short little guy, little person named Tattoo. And that's basically all I know about the Fantasy Island show. Maybe it was after the Love Boat, when the Love Boat stopped Fantasy Island, or maybe it was the lead into Love Boat. I don't know. I just know the names, and I know the opening sequences, and I know that Tattoo said the plane. That was pretty much the extent of my knowledge of Fantasy Island. But I remember seeing this trailer in the theater and being like, I could be on the board with this. Directed by Jeff Wadlow, who directed Truth or Dare or Kick-Ass 2. It was written by Gillian Jacobs, who wrote Truth or Dare, and Chris Roach, who wrote Truth or Dare. Chris Roach also wrote Nonstop, an episode of Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, WrestleMania 22, WWE Saturday Night's Main Event, The Adam Carolla Project, WWE Sunday Night Heat, and WWE Raw. So I used to be a writer for WWE, which I applied for and got rejected for. So interesting background there. And, which would explain why, Dave Bautista was interested in this role. And I guess he had signed on for a period and then he backed out, which, that would have been nice to have Bautista, on the cast. Cause I think here's the cast. Michael Pena as Mr. Rourke, the enigmatic keeper of Fantasy Island and Julia's husband. That's a misfire. And Michael Pena has tried to play villains in the past, and I just don't think he can do it. He's too lovable, man. He's too likable. He's the good guy. I cannot buy him as the bad guy. He's just not the bad guy. He's the lovable sidekick in Ant-Man. He was the, father in Crash. Like, he's just like all these things that are so likable and lovable that I cannot buy him as a villain. He's just not a villain. And I guess, Mr. Rourke is not supposed to be a flat out villain. Maybe there's like a redemptive quality to what happens to Mr. Rourke in the end of this movie. And the way this movie ends, it's like they're definitely trying to set up for a sequel, but I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't think it's gonna happen. So I don't know. I mean, he's definitely positioned or framed as a bad guy in this movie, but you find out that his intentions are not bad. All right, yeah. So here's the rest of the cast: Maggie Q as Gwen Olsen, a businesswoman who visits the island to realize her fantasy of accepting a marriage proposal. She probably had the most emotional of the stories, which is kind of sad considering there was another character who had a storyline that should have been way more impactful. But her storyline, I would say, was the one that kind of tugged at the heartstrings the most. Lucy Hale is Melanie Cole, a disturbed girl who visits the island to realize her fantasy of taking revenge on a childhood bully. Lucy Hale was also in Truth or Dare. And I remember my sister-in-law saying she liked Truth or Dare, and she actually liked it more than Fantasy Island. I mean, she obviously fell asleep during this, so I don't know how she can make a judgment like that. But I think she said my sister-in-law said at one point, Lucy Hale deserves better. And I was like, yeah, okay. I mean, she did the best she could with what, it's like friggin' Good Will Hunting. You did your best. But yeah, Lucy Hale really did her best in this role. And it's unfortunate what happens with her character. I'll just say that. The way her character is written could have been written a little bit better. Her outcome could have been a little bit better. Character development better. Just all around could have been better. But she did the best she could. Austin Stowell as Patrick Sullivan. This is the one that was like, should have been so much more. I should have felt this in my core, and I didn't. And I don't know if that's his performance or the writing, the dialogue that he had to deal with. But he plays a former police officer who visits the island to realize his fantasy of enlisting in a war in honor of his late father. And that whole storyline was very interesting to me. And I think if you get, and I can't act. I'm not an actor. I don't know what I'm talking about. But as a fan, as a viewer, it's like if you got someone else to play him and you got someone else to play his late father, maybe it just hits different. I don't know. But the way that it went down, I really like the idea. I really like the concept that they tried to pull off with that storyline. I really do. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. But it just wasn't executed the way, I don't know, just what it didn't just missed the mark. Portia Doubleday, if you remember her, she's from Mr. Robot. She plays Sloane Madison, Melanie's childhood bully who was kidnapped and sent to the island to perform in a fantasy. I think she gives a very emotional performance. Her and Lucy Hale make a nice little team. I liked them teaming up, and I think they. Unfortunately, it was a little painful at moments. Like what, I don't know if it's the writing or what. It just wasn't carried out the way I would have hoped. But I like their dynamic. Jimmy O Yang, who you might know from the Silicon Valley, as Brax, quote unquote, T. Weaver. He's JD's gay younger brother who visits the island to realize his fantasy of having it all. Ryan Hansen as JD Weaver, Brax's older brother who visits the island to realize his fantasy of having it all. Michael Rooker, who you might remember from Guardians of the Galaxy. What is his name in Guardians of the Galaxy? Fuck if I know. Plays Damon, a private investigator sent to investigate the true intentions of Fantasy Island. Parisa Fitzhenley as Julia Rourke. I guess spoiler, Rourke's deceased wife who appears at the island as his personal assistant on his fantasy. Mike Vogel as Lieutenant Sullivan, Patrick's deceased father who reappears as part of his fantasy on the last war mission before dying. Spoiler. I guess. Probably should not be reading these out loud. And I'll skip over these. But the last one, Charlotte McKinney as Chastity, a party girl who appears as part of JD and Brax's fantasy of having it all. Just when I thought I knew how hot Charlotte McKinney is, and it's been a while since I've seen her face. Because, once you settle down, when a man finds a woman and he gets engaged and he gets married, he turns a blind eye to most women. And so I remember when I was writing for Bro Bible, I would do stories on Charlotte McKinney because I was like, yeah, she's going to get eyeballs on the site. That's clicks. That's page views. And that's money in the bank. So I haven't paid attention to Charlotte McKinney in a while because I got fired from Bro Bible. I get fired from every job. It's how I roll. But Charlotte McKinney, you see her in pictures and you're like, yeah, she's pretty hot. And you see her in kind of some videos and you're like, oh, yeah, pretty attractive. And then I saw her in this movie and I was like, I don't even know how that's possible. How is that possible? Who are you? She's not that bad in this movie. I think she, for what it's worth, the movie had a budget of $7 million, which is pretty goddamn impressive in my opinion. I mean, they're on a friggin' island and they have some pretty good cast members. And to pull off 7 million is pretty good. Pulled in around 26 million domestically, 20.8 million internationally, and for a worldwide gross of 47 mil on a 7 mil budget. I mean, you wonder why movies like this get made. That's probably why. Truth or Dare. So this movie debuted at number 3, first week, and fell to 6 and then 10 in the next 2 weeks. Truth or Dare had a budget of 3.5 million and made 95 million worldwide, which I would like to think that if this run it was a month before COVID hit. So it was in theaters for a month. So even though it was pretty much was dropping out of the top 10 in that first month, it probably had another month in it. I mean, it's not gonna double its take, but it probably would have got close to like 65, 70 maybe. So not as profitable as Truth or Dare, but still, dude, you're making a profit. So that's why they make those movies. And this falls under I don't want to see Truth or Dare because I saw the trailer and I was just like, no thanks. This is like, I know that's a CGI weird face, but it still bugs me out. And like the pencil to the eye, that will never not make me cringe. The pencil to the eye thing is just, God damn it. No, thank you. So I doubt we'll get a sequel, but there's a critic had a good point that I'll get to that I think would make sense. I don't know. The critics' consensus from Rotten Tomatoes: Fantasy Island tries to show audiences the dark side of wish fulfillment, but mainly serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of exhuming long-dead franchises. 8% of critics gave this a favorable review. And I'll be honest, when I see a tomato meter that is that low, I almost have to watch it. When it's like that consensus, that unanimous, that it sucks that much, I'm going to be like, I got to watch it. Because I know it's not, because your expectations are going to be so goddamn low that if you feel anything good from this movie, it's like, that's a win. As opposed to when you see a tomato meter that's like 95% and it's like, if I don't like this, I'm like a pariah. Like I'm a leper. No offense to lepers, but there was a time where lepers were not accepted, folks. I mean, they were banished islands. So when I see the 95%, it's like, okay, this should be good, but if it's not, I'm going to be disappointed. So there's a higher probability they'll be disappointed versus 8%. It's like, I'm going in thinking this is going to suck shit. So if it doesn't for me, that's a win. Does that make sense? So bad it's good? Yeah. Audience, 48% of the audience on Rotten Tomatoes gave it a favorable review with an average rating of 3.08 out of 5. The critics' average rating was 3.21 out of 10. And again, you see that 8%, and this is how Rotten Tomatoes can fuck with your brain. You see the 8% and you think, oh, so the average rating must be like a 1 out of 10 because that's the equivalent of 8%. But no, it's a 3 out of 10. Almost a 4 out of 10. So there are 4. This is what some of the top critics had to say. 4 intertwining fantasies, 4 stories worth of lame ideas, poorly executed. Call it The Plane Crash. Call it The Island of Dr. No Thank You. Call it Worst World. Call it The Butterfly Effect with a dead butterfly and no effect. Oh boy, I bet that critic wrote that and was just like, rubbed one out to it. It was just like, this is gonna be I feel so smarmy right now. Another critic said, contrived and loony, it feels like someone planted about a half dozen different scripts all over this fantasy island. I mean, yeah, probably. I mean, there probably were this probably went through a half dozen different scripts. So they probably just plucked the best parts from those different scripts and tried to like kind of shoehorn it, congeal it together. This critic said, if this new movie were a pilot for a TV reboot, it would come off as an overwrought and underwritten, but still possibly on the right track for a revived anthology series. As a movie, those flaws are magnified to the size of the silver screen. So I do agree with that critic that I would, if this were a TV series, I possibly might check it out and binge it because of the way that it ended. But I could also, I mean, I can totally see how they were setting this up to be a franchise, a movie franchise. And I think it, could have worked. So I'm not going to knock them for trying to do a horror adaptation of a cheesy 70s show. No, I'm not going to knock them for that. It's a great premise, a good concept. I mean, they basically borrowed some elements from Lost. Like the island has powers. You have all these people that don't know how they got there, fighting for their lives. And the moral, basically the moral of the story is that one person's fantasy can easily be another's nightmare. And that final twist, oof, we'll get to that in a second. But the movie was inspired by the cabin in the woods in Westworld. I can definitely pick up on the cabin in the woods vibe, which, I mean, have you seen Cabin in the Woods? Pretty good. And I think it was well received. Westworld, I guess I can see it to a certain extent. Amusement park vibe, theme park vibe. Maybe they could have played that up a little bit more. Jason Blum, who is the founder of Blumhouse Productions, which I Blumhouse, they make decent movies. I don't think any of the movies you would say like, oh, I had to turn it off. Like I couldn't watch the rest of it. So anyway, he wanted Nicolas Cage to play Mr. Rourke, but Cage passed on the role. That would have been fun. That would have been interesting. I would have, because Pena, Cage is a little more weird and eccentric and out there. And Pena just seemed too reserved. Like, I have to do this with the island. The island wants me to do it. This is what the island wants. And it's like, Pena, show me something one time, guy. But I feel like that's a trivia bit on every single movie and TV show that Nicolas Cage was considered. I think Nick Cage is considered for every role, and he still accepts a lot of roles. So, you almost can't blame him. If he's being offered everything, you're going to have to accept something. That final twist sucked, though. Spoiler alert. All right. Fast forward a little bit, maybe a minute, maybe two. I don't know. God damn that final twist. God damn you. Lucy Hale. It's what happens is, okay, I'm going to try and talk through this final twist. All right. So you find out that all these people that are together on this island that have won this contest, quote unquote, to be at this island, you find out through Maggie Q's updated fantasy. So the rule is you only get like one fantasy, I guess, that you have to see through to the end before you can get another one. Is that it? Or you can just get one total. I don't know. So hers was like, I said no to a marriage proposal. I should have said yes. So Mr. Rourke's like, done. So he like sets it up. She says yes. And then goes to sleep, wakes up, and it's like 5 years later, and she's married to the dude, and they have a kid. And she's like, this is crazy. Like, what? I've missed 5 years of this relationship and my daughter and blah, blah. And she somehow figures out a loophole where she can get like a new fantasy. And she's like, I understand what my new fantasy should be. And it's like, I want to save my neighbor from a fire who died in the fire. Like originally he died in the fire, but in this fantasy, I'm going to save him. So she tries to save him and she ends up like failing. But in the fantasy, you see her like running through the building, and she passes by JD and Brax going down the stairs. She runs outside and comes to the police officer, who's Patrick. She, what was the other one? Yeah, so she runs into like the other people on the island. She discovers like through her fantasy that those other people that are on the island were at the apartment building that was on fire. And then you find out that Lucy Hale was supposed to go on a date with this guy, Nick, who was killed in the fire. You also find out that Nick, the guy killed in the fire, was roommates with JD and Brax. And so it comes to light through a series of events that Lucy Hale, who was dubbed a freak by her bully, Portia Doubleday, and was kind of like ostracized and was made to look like a fool at the prom, like experienced a Carrie like event at her prom where someone, I guess the Portia Doubleday like dumped water on her, like at some kind of middle school dance or whatever. She was bullied. You come to find out that this whole thing was actually Lucy Hale's. So everyone has their fantasies on the island, but it turns out this whole thing was actually Lucy Hale's revenge fantasy, because she was supposed to go on a date with this Nick character, and he died, and so that prevented her from getting like true love. And so she wanted to get revenge on all the people in the apartment building who could have saved him but didn't. And then you find out that, oh, she didn't even really meet the guy. She was just stalking him online. So it was like, could have been so much better. I mean, I stuck through it throughout there were some viewers on Rotten Tomatoes, like the audience, who gave reviews saying like, I couldn't get past the first 15 minutes and blah, blah. And I was like, if you go into it, what are you expecting going into it, first of all? And it's like, well, okay, there you have the hardcore horror fans who are just like, there were no scares. I wasn't scared. There were no scares. And I was like, okay, I was not watching it to get scared per se. I viewed it more as a thriller, mind-bending thriller kind of type thing. There was some cheesy, stupid comedy mixed in, which I appreciated. And I wanted to see where it was going. So it kept me hooked throughout the time, because I was like, where is this going? Where is this going to land? So even though I know a lot of critics were like really, coming down on it for that kept me hooked and engaged. It's like, I got to see how this ends, because this is like, I don't know how they're going to pull this off. And of course they went with what I thought was a pretty dumb twist. Lucy Hale's revenge fantasy. But then there was like the one final twist, which was like, oh, hey, so you actually technically never, you, the bully, you're on this island, you get a fantasy because you haven't had it yet. And she's like, well, I want Nick to be with Melanie, who's the Lucy Hale, who Lucy Hale plays. And so Nick, who you've seen throughout the movie as like this burn fire victim or whatever, seen by each of the characters, like jumps, like it was Friday the 13th all over again. Like he jumps out of the pond, grabs Lucy Hale, and brings her into the well, whatever the hell is with the fucking synapses, that thing. But before she gets sucked under, she throws the grenade, and then Patrick jumps on the grenade just like his dad jumped on the grenade. So, I don't know. It was enjoyable for me, at least. I don't know. I did a little AMA IRL at dinner the next night. It's like, fire away all the questions. I got it. Yeah, so that's Fantasy Island. I was thinking about doing National Treasure, but we'll probably pass on that. The Vast of Night, won't spend long on that, but it was we'll talk Vast of Night. PG-13, hour and 31 minutes. Drama, mystery, sci-fi. Was released on Amazon Prime Video Memorial Day weekend, May 29th. Synopsis is: in the twilight of the 1950s, on one fateful night in New Mexico, young switchboard operator Faye, there's Faye again, and charismatic radio DJ Everett discover a strange audio frequency that could change their small town in the future forever. It actually takes place in November 1958. I found that out. Not a brand name cast. Sierra McCormick plays Faye Crocker. I liked her performance a lot. She has not done, she's done a lot of TV. I don't know if she's done a ton of movies, but I would think that after this performance, she would get a lot more roles in movies. Jake Horowitz as Everett Sloan. He was phenomenal. I thought he did an excellent job. Does not have as many credits as Sierra. But again, I feel like this could be a launch pad. This whole movie was just a launch pad for everyone involved. Like the director, Andrew Patterson. He was also the writer, editor, and producer. This was his one and only credit on IMDb. And a lot of critics are saying that this is an amazing debut, and you can only see good things for him from this point on. It was also written by Craig W. Sanger, who I don't think has any credits. So it's a lot of no name, quote unquote, no names. A lot of first timers. And considering all that, I mean, they pulled off an amazing program. Critics' consensus from Rotten Tomatoes: an engrossing sci-fi thriller that transcends its period's trappings. The Vast of Night suggests great things for debuting director Andrew Patterson. 92% of critics gave it a favorable review with a 7.84 out of 10 average rating. Audiences, 63% of audiences gave it a favorable review with an average rating of 3.42 out of 5. Very low budget, high concept, sharp, funny, ominous. One critic said the quietest moments in The Vast of Night are as creepy and effective as the loudest. With the cinematographer Miguel, I don't even know how to say that. My goodness. Miguel Aon Litin Milm for short. Patterson turns the camera into an uneasily embodied presence, and when it takes flight, so does the movie. Yeah. A lot of shots, tracking shots that at the time you're like, what is this supposed to be? Like, we're being transported across town from here to there, to the gym, to the radio station, to whatever, the switchboard operator. But when you get deeper into the story, you start to think like, whoa, there was talk about how, through the stories from Billy calling in the former soldier who is now dying of cancer, and then through the story of the mom who lost her son, like through those stories, you start to realize, okay, maybe there's like the ship way up high, but there's the possibility that there are these smaller ships that get down low. And so part of me thinks, is it possible that the camera, when we are going through all these, traveling fast, low to the ground, is that potentially like one of these recon ships or something like that go down and surveil, and then maybe they're invisible? I don't know. Another critic said that Patterson trusts that chemistry will compensate for a gentle thriller that chooses to impress with ingenuity and charm instead of special effects. Yeah, I mean, the cast had great chemistry, I thought, between Everett and Faye. Hard to tell, like, we were trying to determine, are they in high school? Like, Faye seems like she's in high school, but then like Everett seems like he might be in college. I can't picture him being like, he's a little too, I don't know. Maybe this is like presumptuous of me or ignorant, but like he seems a little too cocksure and like confident to be in high school. It seems like he had like the college experience under his belt. Seemed like an older guy. whereas Faye seemed like very much in high school and younger. And at certain points, it almost seemed like an older brother, younger sister type vibe. I'm probably reading into that much the wrong way, but they went from that kind of relationship to the very end, which we'll get to, which was not that. Another critic said the vast of night manages to be eerie and compelling despite unfolding mostly in a series of conversations and monologues tied together by a fictional Twilight Zone-esque show called Paradox Theater. Yeah, so I really enjoyed that part of it. I have limited familiarity with Twilight Zone, but I've loved the episodes I have seen. And I actually need to check out the new Twilight Zone, which I think is produced by Jordan Peele. Yeah, Jordan Peele. But instead it's Paradox Theater, but it's a very similar vibe to Twilight Zone. And I was trying to think as I'm watching, I'm like, what is Patterson trying to say here with this Paradox Theater? Is he trying to say, what is he trying to say? I mean, I like the aesthetic. I like the look of it. He would go from, showing our characters like in that square box TV, black and white, to like hovering or fading into the screen, and then it becomes like the colorized full-blown HD that we're so used to now. What was he trying to say with that? I think he was maybe just trying to piggyback on, that kind of style, and was trying to like get you in that mindset that like, and maybe that, and I'm starting to think that it was almost like a disservice. And I think some viewers said that when they were reviewing it, was like, yeah, I got this Twilight Zone type. I feel like I'm watching a Twilight Zone episode, but then there wasn't that like twist, that final twist that the Twilight Zone episodes usually come with. So it's nice. It's a nice look for sure. But then did you ultimately hurt the story because of it? Because you set up your audience or yourself for failure. Another critic said this unpacks a generation's worth of Cold War fascination and paranoia. Which, yeah, you get like from the get-go, you see Everett when they have the recorder and they're playing with the new recorder, talking about like it's that whole practice like mantra or speech of like, I am not a communist, which I think that was at the height of McCarthyism, or maybe right around there. So there is like, at least for Everett, the thought that like this is probably a planned attack by the Russians or by an enemy, and not this extraterrestrial life force, this alien life force. I really enjoyed when they were walking. I mean, yes, I get it. The audiences said it was hard to follow what was happening, and I can totally understand it. I mean, I always turn on closed captions and subtitles, but it was very helpful in this movie because there's a lot of rapid fire dialogue towards the beginning, and even the subtitles and closed captions have a hard time keeping up, So very grateful for that, but I can see how audiences would be like, it's a lot to process and it's not always relevant or pertains to the storyline. So yeah, I could totally get on board with that. I could see why audiences wouldn't dig it. But I did appreciate the walk from, I think, the school to the radio station, or maybe the switchboard, with Faye and Everett, with Faye talking about these articles that she's read in this like almost like a popular mechanic. Is that one of those 50s science magazines, and talking about the articles from them and bringing up like basically self-driving cars and iPhones, and like not calling them that, but like the tunnel system or tube system that everyone's been hinting at for years. And I was like, I'm sitting there going, there's no fucking way that those articles in the 50s had those predictions, because it's essentially coming true. I cannot wait for the tube system or whatever, where you can go from New York to, LA in what, an hour? Something like that. I think Elon Musk was trying. I saw a map recently, and I was like, "That's a pretty cool map. I could get on board with that." One audience member said, "What I did like was the Twilight Zone vibe. I kept sticking with it, thinking we were going to get to a Twilight Zone payoff where you step back and re-examine the whole story, but that didn't happen." And yeah, so I hate to burst your bubble. If you're looking to check out The Vast Night, just don't get your hopes up. It's not the Twilight Zone ending that you would hope for. One audience member said it's like American Graffiti meets X-Files, which I thought was a good description. The radio station, their call letters are WOTW, which is an homage to War of the Worlds. I thought that was a nice little touch. The mythical town Cayuga is borrowed from Cayuga Productions, Rod Serling's production company that produced The Twilight Zone. There is no such town as Cayuga, New Mexico. It was filmed in 17 goddamn days in September 2016. I mean, I don't even know how you do that, because that's impressive. And the title is taken from Shakespeare's The Tempest. And there's a long ass quote here, and I'll read it. And my mom's friend, who's an English teacher, Tom's River, she gets on me all the time because she spouts out these freaking Shakespeare quotes and expects me to know what they are, because apparently, she thinks I have the gift of penmanship or whatever, like the being able to write. And I'm a writer, but not the kind of writer that she thinks I am. Anyway, here's the quote. "For this, be sure, tonight thou shalt have cramps, side stitches that shall pen thy breath up. Urchins shall forth at vast of night, that they may work all exercise on thee. Thou shalt be pinched as thick as honeycomb, each pinch more stinging than bees that made 'em." I mean, what? No idea. But that's, I guess, where the title comes from, Vast of Night. So, again, not a big budget, but I definitely kept my attention, and I appreciated all the, costume design. I mean, all the characters were, well developed. I will say, okay, so getting to the ending. In the beginning, Everett and Faye start off as kind of like a big brother, little sister type thing going on. And then for some reason, is it her daughter or it's not her daughter? That was very confusing. There's a point where she's like, "Oh my God, so-and-so is supposed to be watching this little girl." She then takes off. She does a lot of running in this movie. She's like took a page from the Tom Cruise handbook and does a lot of running, and ends up running to her house. Maybe that's her little sister. I don't know. She runs in. She's like, "What's going on?" She grabs the kid out of the crib. The kid's awake. Takes the kid out of the house. Meanwhile, there's a woman there in a nightgown who I guess was watching the kid, but I guess was not watching the kid close enough. So Faye takes the little kid out of the house as Everett waits. They come out. They get into the car with the couple. They read the whatever language on the note from the mother who tells them the story. And the couple ends up falling asleep or doing something weird in the car, which is like, why are they falling asleep and why aren't you falling asleep in the back seat? They end up getting out of the car because they're scared. They run into the woods. Why did she take the kid? And I think it's because it's the final shot. Spoiler alert, where they come into this clearing in the woods. They look up and it's like all these UFOs. Big UFOs, smaller UFOs, and they're looking up and they're just in awe. And it's Everett, and he's side by side with Faye and the small kid, and it's almost like they look like they should be a family. Like he's the dad, she's the mom, here's the daughter. And I guess that shows like the evolution of how far they've come from throughout this ordeal. Is like they had this kind of relationship here, and then through this all they now become like this family unit. I don't know. Her taking the kid was weird, and I didn't really understand that, other than she starts off as this kind of naive, innocent girl who's nervous and shy when they are trying to test the recorder and interview people in the parking lot. Like, starts off there, and then at the end of the movie, she's now almost like a matriarch, maternal figure who is now caring for this kid who I don't know who the fucking kid was. Her daughter, her little sister. I don't know. Why did she even take that kid out of the house? I don't know. Yeah, so that's the Vast Night. I don't know. I'm into that kind of shit, so I would recommend it. You know, it's got a great look to it, good acting, good writing. You know, but it's quiet. It's on the quieter side, and I think it's not, you know, like a lot of critics said, it doesn't depend on special effects and loud explosions and a lot of, you know, big budget action type sequences. It depends on a lot on how quiet and soft things are. Like, there was a shot where Faye's at the switchboard, and it's like slowly panning in on her, and she's kind of in the right third of the frame, and you're like looking. I don't know if everyone else was doing this, but I'm looking in the background like there's about to be a fucking alien over her shoulder. Like, I just expected that. I was like, here it comes. So stuff like that. I think it was reminiscent of like in Signs, M. Night Shyamalan's Signs. Like, there's certain eerie moments where it's like too quiet and like something's going on, and you get that kind of sense with Vast Night. So yeah, I recommend watching it at night, possibly on drugs, but you know, it's not too long, not too drawn out. I don't think you'll be like, I wasn't horribly disappointed with the ending. So let's talk Greyhound. I think this is the final of the movies that I'll be reviewing, and then we'll quickly, hopefully, get into the Mets and Los Giants. So let's talk Greyhound. PG-13, hour and 31 minutes, which is interesting for a World War II movie. Usually these war movies, it's like you're usually pushing 3 hours. It's an action drama history genre. Came out July 10th, so this is this past Friday. It hit Apple TV Plus. It's based on the 1955 novel The Good Shepherd by C.S. Forester, which is interesting that this is interesting that a novel that old finally got its due. It was directed by Aaron Schneider, and I didn't write down his other credits. Sorry. Interesting enough, it was written by Tom Hanks, which I don't know that he's written any other screenplays, but Hanks also plays Commander Ernest Krause, commanding officer of the Greyhound. You have Stephen Graham, who the name probably doesn't ring a bell, but he's a very familiar face. And he plays Lieutenant Commander Charlie Cole, who is Krause's executive officer. Elizabeth Shue has I guess it's a pretty major part, though she doesn't have a lot of screen time. She plays Evelyn, Ernest's love interest, which I also found that kind of weird because it's like, isn't Tom Hanks like 60 something? He's got to be in his 60s by now, right? Or at least upper 50s. And I don't think Elizabeth Shue is that old, but maybe she is. I don't know. I just get a little uneasy with that kind of age difference, which is saying a lot because it's like I'm married to someone who's 6 years younger than me. So it's like, get over it. Not a whole lot of other big names that pop out at me. Oh, Chet Hanks. Chet Hanks is in this movie as Bushnell. Don't remember him. It's kind of tough because like everyone's in uniform and they all have the same kind of haircut. And the focus is on Tom Hanks the entire film. So it's like you don't really get to other than like the sonar guy and the messenger guy and maybe his executive officer, they spent some time with the mess hall cook who's constantly preparing Tom Hanks meals, and Tom Hanks is just like too in his own head to eat, which that got to me the most out of everything. It was like this cook is describing some delicious dishes, and Tom Hanks wants nothing to do with it because he's just too busy thinking about that game plan. Had a budget of $50.3 million. It was initially scheduled to be theatrically released in the U.S. by Sony Pictures under the Columbia Pictures title on March 22nd, 2019. Ooh. It was delayed to May 8th, and it was delayed to June 12th. And then finally in May, Apple TV acquired the distribution rights for $70 million. Ooh. The critics' consensus from Rotten Tomatoes. Greyhound's characters aren't as robust as its action sequences, but this fast-paced World War II thriller benefits from its sufficiently economical approach. 80% of critics gave it a favorable review with an average rating of 6.39 out of 10. 79% of the audience gave it a favorable review with a 3.95 out of 5 average rating. I would say that's spot on. Yeah, I'd be right around there as well. This is the 5th time that Tom Hanks has played a captain. Previous times were Apollo 13, Saving Private Ryan, Captain Phillips, and Sully. If you also count him as the captain of the shrimp boat Jenny and Forrest Gump, that actually is his 6th time. I love that trivia tidbit. It's like that guy that's as thorough as you can get. One critic said Dunkirk or 1917, this is not, but as a window onto an under-acknowledged arena of combat and a starting point for armchair military historians, Greyhound is seaworthy enough to make it across. A lot of people are calling this like a dad movie. One critic said this is Crimson Tide meets Mad Max Fury Road, which I think is a great description, but I don't think it lives up to that description at all. It's nonstop. It's pretty much nonstop action like Mad Max Fury Road with not a whole lot of dialogue that would reveal character. But it's just barreling forward, just pushing the story forward through action. And Crimson Tide, I think I remember we watched Crimson Tide like in the past 2 years or so. And it's reminiscent of Crimson Tide, and that is a cat and mouse type chase game where it's like, he's moving here, we're going to move there. He's moving there, I'm going to move this way. It's a battle of wits and wills, you could say. One critic said this is a war film driven by abhorrence of war rather than bloodlust or jingoism. And you look at Tom Hanks when they throw the depth charges over the side and knock out the first German U-boat. They usually, how they determine that it's a hit is they look for oil from the U-boat. And so that when they see the big pool of oil, they know it's a hit. We got them. And you could see like there's a good portion of the soldiers, of the Navy that are cheering or they're happy. But you look at Tom Hanks and he's got that look of like, I didn't want to have to do it, but I had to do it. And it's like, it's sad that had to happen, and he's also a holy man. He's a very religious dude in this movie. I think the first time we see him, he's on his knees praying. He's got the Bible. The last time we see him in the movie, spoiler, he's praying with the Bible. So, it was funny because there were also like the scenes where I don't know how this happens, but like the Germans from the U-boat can just communicate to them on their ship through radio, and like they speak fairly decent English, and they're just taunting and talking shit and trash to the Americans and the British over the radios on their ships. I thought that was like, how does that happen? How's that possible? but like I would have liked to have seen a little more like so the Germans are talking shit from this Grey Wolf U-boat and saying like we're gonna kill you and we're gonna like celebrate and bathe in your blood, like really just graphics shit that they're talking to Tom Hanks and the crew on the Greyhound, and it's like the way that it was shot, you wouldn't know that when they finally like the last U-boat that they take out, is that the Grey Wolf? And like you almost feel like you don't get that satisfaction of like, yeah, we got you, motherfucker. Like we got you, Grey Wolf. Like there was none of that. And I guess that's the point. Like you're not supposed to that's not the point. Like you're not supposed to like, I don't know. It just, I think from a viewer audience standpoint, and especially as someone was never a soldier, was not in war, that I just don't understand that perspective. Where it would have been nice, I guess, from a storyline standpoint, to have been like, we got him. You know, just like even saying that, like, we got him. Just some kind of acknowledgement that they finally got Grey Wolf, because you don't get that satisfaction in this movie. I mean, spoiler, you know, they end up, I assume they end up getting Grey Wolf. I don't know. It was very confusing because they throw a lot of text on screen, but it's like white text on a white background, and it's for not a long time. They just kind of flashed up there for like 2 seconds and then it's gone. So you have to really pay attention, and like, you know, doesn't help that your eyes are failing you, Neil. So that was a bit disappointing. Is like, can you just use a different font or color font or something just so I can keep up with this? Because it is confusing. And you know, that's probably part of it. It's like, I can't imagine if you're actually like on the boat and you got to determine what's what. Like, what is that ship? What is that? What the hell is that? And I had text on the screen. I didn't know what was going on. Another critic said it was repetitive, though still absorbing dramatically, which, yeah, I mean, the repetitive is just, it starts to wear on you a little bit, you know, because it's like the sonar guy is saying like, heading 091, 15 and 20 miles. And then you hear the messenger guy get that message and say to Tom Hanks, heading 091, you know, 15, 20 miles. And then you have another guy say heading 091. It's just like, all right, we get it. I can't imagine writing that screenplay as Tom Hanks. Just like, all right, first screenplay, I'm just going to do a military movie. And that way I can just, I write like, I could write like, I don't know, 50 pages of dialogue, but I know that they repeat it 3 times and that'll be 150 pages of dialogue. And then boom, movie. But I do love when, you know, the sonar guy is talking to the messenger and the messenger like sneezes and there's like that 5-second delay where people are like, what did he say? Like, don't ever do that again. Like, don't sneeze again. Okay, no problem. Parts of the drama play out on its star's face, and they're the best parts because there's no one better at portraying a good man's self-doubts and a frightened man's courage. I mean, yeah, Tom Hanks gives an awesome performance in this. Awesome. Greyhound doesn't move you emotionally the same way a war film like Saving Private Ryan does, but it still fulfills its purpose. Yeah, I did not get the same vibe as Saving Private Ryan. There wasn't it just wasn't there. And I think it's because you didn't really get to know a lot of the cast. Even like the Ernest Krause character that Tom Hanks plays, you get to see like that one flashback of him with Evelyn at Christmas time. And that's like it. You know, you would think that when I saw it was an hour and 31, I was like, this is super interesting that they're going to do this in that amount of time. Because I feel like if they just they could have tacked on another 15 to 30 minutes, I think. A cool 2 hours for this film, that's fine. I mean, the action sequences were there. but it would have been, I think having more flashbacks to his character, would have been nice. I think the fact that he was like up for like 3 or 4 days straight needed to be emphasized a little bit more. They kept like hitting you with he hasn't eaten and like he's just drinking coffee. You would think there would be, and I know this is like, you would think there'd be a little more mistakes. I mean, shit. Like if I don't get enough, if I don't get my 7 hours of sleep, I'm making mistakes left and right. So can you imagine like 3 or 4 days without sleep and no food and just coffee? Like, is he just pissing like fire? So I was hoping to see more of that toll. You could see it's taking a toll on him, but it doesn't seem like the correct toll. I don't know. Also, I would like to see more of like his relationship with, I guess it was Cleveland. Was it Cleveland? I forget. But it seemed like there was some kind of relationship there that, really hit home for him. And I don't know. They didn't. It seemed like they opted for, we're just gonna give you, action, and we're not gonna like get too creative or stray too much from the action because we want to, explore all these characters that ultimately this movie is not about. It's about this main character, the captain. But the words that are sprinkled throughout these reviews: effective, seaworthy, lean, economical. Like the K9 Greyhound, it's trim, narrow of scope, and runs efficiently and well despite a barrage of on-screen timestamps and vessel identification markers, many of which you can't friggin' see. Here's some trivia. When the captain refers to Huff Duff, he is referring to high-frequency direction finding. This was a key method of how Allied naval forces detected and tracked German U-boats. The Kriegsmarine's U-boat fleet maintained a high amount of radio traffic with its shore command and with each other for their Wolfpack tactics against Allied shipping. Huff Duff allowed Allied naval ships to detect those radio transmissions and determine the location of those transmitting ships to attack them. Which is weird because that friggin' Grey Wolf U-boat was constantly communicating with them through their radio. You think they would be able to pinpoint them better. In one sequence, I thought this was interesting. The movie shows the U-boat passing close to the Greyhound to be under its cannon and immune to fire. However, in reality, when this naval tactic was performed, the captain would order hard rudder to cause the boat to list, thereby bringing the cannon down to bear. This is a centuries-old practice counter maneuver. Maneuvers demonstrated in many an old pirate or naval battle movie. So I think the person who wrote that trivia was like, oh my God, I can't believe they didn't hard rudder to list to bring the cannon down to bear. I need to let the world know that was a missed opportunity. This is the second World War II movie where there is a climactic battle scene where Tom Hanks is rescued from potentially certain death by an airstrike via fighter planes. I thought that was weird too. Like, air cover. There was one sequence though where Tom Hanks is talking to the rest of the crew and he's like, they're just waiting. The U-boats are just waiting. They're keeping their distance. They're not attacking us during the daylight. They're waiting for nightfall and they're going to attack us then. And we got like a glimpse of it. And then it was like, and then they just fade to black and we're just going to like cut to the morning. And it's like, so how did they survive that? That seems like that would have been the worst of the worst. during the nightfall, and we only got a little taste. I would like to see how they got through that shit. Overall, a good movie though. I mean, I liked it a lot. It's just like could have been so much better. So that's movies. Well, really quick, we'll talk about the Mets and Major League Baseball. I've been kind of like, I don't know. I want to be happy that baseball is back, but it's like after hearing all the people opting out and all the people getting COVID, it's like, is this even really going to happen? And like, if it does happen, is it going to be enjoyable knowing that all these players are out or whatever? David Price has opted out. Nick Markakis from the Braves has opted out. Freddie Freeman has COVID. Aroldis Chapman has tested positive for coronavirus. Then you have Tanaka took a line drive to the head, mild concussion. Garrett Cole's bitching about the baseball, which, I guess the elite will do that. I mean, I was a subpar Division III middle relief pitcher, so I was just glad I was holding a baseball on a mound. I never found a ball. I mean, there were balls that I liked and balls that I didn't like, but it was not like I demand that ball. I never was like that. Maybe I should have been, and it would have turned out differently if I was just like, no, this ball stinks. I want that ball. But you can get the sense of like what's happening here. It's just fuck, man. It's like, is this even really a season? And yeah, I'll be happy if we win the World Series, but it's like, there's going to be so many asterisks and footnotes on this freaking season, which stinks because we have such a great lineup. And I don't know that we're going to get that same lineup next year. So it's like, I would just love to see this lineup through 162 games in this rotation and this bullpen. I would love to have it for 162. And instead we're getting it for 60, if that. So it's like, I think I have really high hopes, but at the same time, it's like, you have people voluntarily not playing. So it's like, on top of it's a short season, now you have, Markakis and Freeman aren't playing. Chapman isn't playing. So-and-so isn't playing. It's like, it doesn't feel the same. I don't know. I know I'm being a Debbie Downer, so I'm trying not to be a Debbie Downer. Let's talk about how Cespedes looks like a monster. I think that's great. There was some video of him getting work at first base, which, Louis Rojas was just saying that, that was for fun, for shits and gigs. But, and I know we have Dom Smith, but why not throw Yo there at first base in some games just to see what you got in case you are planning to keep him? Like, is he really going to be an outfielder for you if you do decide to keep? Say he has a monster year this year. He's going to be your DH. And if you need to move around some people, where else is he going to play? First base. I think his outfield days are pretty much over. So that would be the next evolution for him. His next step would be first base if you had to. If you want to just give Alonso a rest and maybe just DH Alonso. Obviously, Dom Smith is the odd man out, but like, so be it. I don't know. I love Dom, but if he puts up numbers like Yo, then we'll talk. This ownership thing is driving me up a fucking wall. I mean, just the Wilpons just need to sell to Steve Cohen. Like, just make it happen. And this is what I don't understand. The Redskins are going to announce their name change this morning. Didn't happen. The Mets are going to, like, the bid should come in this day. Okay, the bids are in. When the fuck is the decision going to be made? After weeks of negotiations, hedge fund billionaire Steve Cohen has told the Wilpons he would pay $2 billion for the Mets and another $2 bills for the SNY. Other bids for the team so far are lower, meaning he is the lead bid, but the timing is unclear. It's like, so why did the bids have to be in by Thursday? You're going to drag your goddamn feet. And it's a $2 billion valuation for each of those. So I think it's like, He's going to pay for Sterling Enterprises, whatever it is, 85% share of the Mets and a 65% share of the SNY, which is valued at $2 billion each. I don't know. Just sell Steve Cohen, the friggin' team and the network already. I mean, what are you waiting for? What's the deal? I don't understand. Like, you're already in a tight spot. It's only going to get worse from here. Let's do it. Cripes. Mets are adding 3 pitchers to their 60-player pool. Humphreys, Gonsalves, and Blackham. Blackham's the one who will probably be he'll be invited to spring training or something like that. I don't know. Gonsalves was claimed off waivers from the Twins in November. 4.15 ERA, 1.23 WHIP, 21 strikeouts, 7 walks, allowed 9 hits in 13 innings. And Humphreys was added to the Mets 40-man roster in the offseason following him pitching to a .77 ERA in 11 2/3 innings of Arizona fall ball. So we're stocking up on the arms, which you can never have enough arms. Like Jared Hughes. We signed Jared Hughes after losing Jacob Ram on waivers. Over his 9-year career, Hughes has a 2.88 ERA, 1.22 WHIP, averages 6.07 Ks over 9 and .76 home runs over 9. So he's a clear upgrade over what we have in the bullpen. I believe this is the guy that has the insane headshot. I don't know if you followed my Twitter, but I retweeted it because it's like, that is one intense game face. And if you can bring that to the mound, I'm pretty sure you can maybe cause some buckling of the knees, perhaps some sweating on the brow, perhaps some Hershey squirts. And it was only a matter of time. ESPN Films is planning a multi-part 30 for 30 for the Mets. I mean, that was like, I put it out there a couple videos ago. The Mets, 86 Mets deserve the Last Dance treatment, and now we're going to get it. Apparently Jimmy Kimmel is involved, which is great. So I am very excited for that. The Mets are going to use cutouts of fans in the Citi Field stands, which is just like, I don't know, dude, who gives a shit? I don't know why you need to see fans in the stands for you to get more involved and pump in fake crowd noise. I don't know. If you had to pick, I'd pick the fake crowd noise, pumping that in as opposed to cutouts. The Mets also signed Venezuelan IFA Richard Brito, who can sling it 102 miles per hour, which it gets you a little tingly in your special spots. And for everyone who criticized Brody Van Wagenen for throwing a chair in that coaches meeting, I think we're right around the 1-year anniversary of that. The Mets went on to go 48-27 after that. So maybe a little effect there. Yeah. So we'll quickly just go over the 2020 schedule. Like I said, 60 games. We'll be playing the NL East and the AL East. We got 10 games each against 10 games against each NL East team, 10 against the Marlins, 10 against the Braves, 10 against the Nats, 10 against the Phillies for 40 games. And the remaining 20 will be against the AL East, 4 against Boston and Baltimore each, 4 against Boston, 4 against Baltimore, 6 against the Yankees, 3 against the Blue Jays, 3 against the Rays. So you can kind of see why it's like, it's a lot of, which they brought it up on CCK today on Barstool Radio. It's like, why is the NBA in a bubble and yet the MLB is traveling? And I don't get the answer for that. But I mean, you can already see what's happening in the bubble. Like, was it Russell Westbrook has it? COVID? Who else has it? So I don't think maybe the bubble is the wrong move. I feel bad for the West teams, though. Teams in the West. There's like, was it San Francisco? or Oakland has to travel to Texas. I mean, that's like, the furthest that the Mets have to travel is Tampa, I think, with Toronto being the second. And you can see they only play 3 games each against those. But I don't know. I think I would not be surprised if we go. I mean, is 40-20 insane? Is that just like an insane statement? Or is 35-25 more realistic? I mean, the Braves are shorthanded. They got the key players opting out and with COVID. So I think we come out and like 3-game stint at home. I think we maybe sweep. And then you go back to back 2 games here and there against the Red Sox, which I don't even know where the Red Sox stand right now. If they're like in a good position. The Braves again. So we could get off to a hot start before we get into the Nationals, Marlins, then Nationals again, Phillies, then Marlins, Yankees for 3. I don't know. If everyone's fully loaded and fully stocked, I would say this is a lot harder schedule than it probably is, because you just have players that just don't want to play for risk of getting COVID, that have families. You have the players that actually do get COVID. And then, so meanwhile, the Mets are like full strength, 100%. They're getting tested every day. Everyone feels 100%. You could tell like the vibe around, on the field is just different. It's, it seems like the team is just gelling. You're getting along, having fun, which is great. But it's just such a short season. It's like, why can't we just play a full season with this squad? I feel so good about this squad right now, but it's going to be a short season. Beggars can't be choosers. I get it. So maybe if we win this one, it'll be like we have the potential to win over the course of a full season. Let's keep this unit together, turn into a dynasty. Hell yeah. So I like that approach. But yeah, it just sucks that this season got fucking ruined. And they're big picture. It's not that important. I get it. But like, would love to take this squad over full season. So that's the Mets. We'll talk NFL really quickly. Before we get to the NFL, the Cleveland Indians are taking a page from the Redskins book and changing their team name. And I think they're going to go with the Cleveland Spiders, which, cool. I guess they used to be the Cleveland Spiders, or there was a pro team named the Cleveland Spiders way back in the day with like black and white photos where no one smiled. And there were collars on the jerseys. And so, cool. Spiders. I don't know. Are there a lot of spiders in the Cleveland area? Whereas Washington's like, I don't know what the hell they're going to name their team. So, yeah, let's talk about the NFL. So the Redskins are changing the name. We already talked about it early on in the intro. I don't know. Warriors, Red Tails, Renegades, Sentinels, Monuments. Don't name it Monuments, dude. Just don't do that. Yeah, I don't know anymore. I had a post for Tri-State Sports Guys that Tri-State Sports Guys is now defunct. We just stopped paying for the domain, I think, and it's like I all went to shit. But I tried saving some of the articles that I wrote for that site and then put it up on my own site. And there was one about the Redskins name change. And there was like Gladiators was one. There's a bunch. And, they're just, I don't know. I don't even know, dude. It's so late. It's after midnight. The Black National Anthem will be played NFL Week 1, which is cool. I don't know what the Black National Anthem is, but I bet it's got soul, and it's probably got a good rhythm, good beat. dope lyrics. Deshaun Jackson, I know that was probably not the right thing to say. But I mean, that's huge. It's fucking huge. I mean, 4 years ago, would you even think that would be a possibility? It's amazing how far the NFL has come, and it's all happened since Memorial Day. It's been like less than 2 months. Whew. Amazing. Speaking of Deshaun Jackson, Eagles wide receiver promotes anti-Semitic message with fake Hitler quote on Instagram. Ugh. Yeah. I guess it was from a book, Louis Farrakhan book. I don't know. I don't even know I don't know. But yeah, like KFC said on Barstool, like anytime your post, the image you upload for your post begins with Hitler said, it's like probably want to dial that back or think twice. Interesting to see how things have developed there, where there are a lot of people of the Jewish faith who are Jewish who are very upset about the reaction to that, like with everything that's going on with Black Lives Matter and the amount of change that's happening there, that there hasn't been the same reaction to his anti-Semitic message. And it's like, well, there are more African-American players in the NFL than Jewish players. And so that's the uphill battle that you face. And I forget the Eagles' punishment was for him. I think they just fined him or something like that. Would have been nice to suspend him, preferably in week. I can't remember the weeks we play them, but and Jeffrey Lurie is Jewish, I believe, right? Eagles owner. But it's like, if you're not gonna have a harsh punishment for, was it Riley Cooper who threw around the N-bomb at a concert? It's like you can't do it for Deshaun. But it's good to see that what Deshaun has done since then. Like, and it's partially because of Julian Edelman putting out that video, Julian Edelman being Jewish and inviting Deshaun to go to museums with him. And the optimist in me likes to think, oh yeah, that really did happen. Like, they got together and went to this museum and did all these things together. And like Deshaun had an awakening, and then the pessimist in me is like, that's all just for show. So I hope the optimist is right. Jets receiver Denzel Mims was quoted as saying this about his Eagles pre-draft interview: "I didn't like that dirty ass, trash ass city." Oh boy. Apparently he was, quote unquote, very scared of Philadelphia. So, and I'm right there with you, Mims, because it's looking like we're probably going to move to Philadelphia. We're probably going to move in that area to be closer to my wife's family. And I'm going to be walking down the street wearing my Eli jersey and my Mets hat, and I'm going to get clocked from out of nowhere with a cheesesteak. I don't know. I'm probably overthinking. I have a lot of Eagles friends. I have a lot of, Philly sports fans friends. And, we give each other a good ribbon here and there. And they've never been violent to me. So hopefully that'll carry over to the city of Philadelphia. But damn, I've said this multiple times to my wife. I was like, I have to give credit to Philly sports fans. And yes, I did have an article for Coed years ago after an incident where I put together a list of all the times the Philly sports fans have done something violent or awful. And it's like, but at the same time, I know that the Philly sports fans that I have as friends and the ones that I've come across at Barstool, they're just fucking funny. And that fan base is probably the funniest in terms of just like the mentality and just like always having the perfect fucking clapback or comeback, or I don't know. So I got to give kudos to them. I'm pandering right now, trying to lube them up. It's called foreplay before I got up all up in Philadelphia. David Njoku, there's demanded a trade request and the Giants are among the contenders. And I don't know. I mean, he was in the running in the 2016 draft. And a lot of people thought that we would select him. We went with Evan Engram instead. Engram was extended through 2021, as we said in a previous episode, and will be an unrestricted free agent in 2022. I guess Engram is owed $3 million in 2020 and $6 million in 2021. I don't know. I haven't seen enough of Njoku that would make me think that he would evaluate addition. I mean, having Njoku and Engram on the same team, is that too much firepower? Oh boy, yeah. But I've also read that the Browns have big plans for Njoku despite the trade rumors. So what are you gonna believe? Who knows what to believe? You know what you can believe? Patrick Mahomes. His 10-year contract could be worth over $500 million, $500 million. People are calling him dumb for locking himself into that contract, but I think something like $480 million plus is guaranteed. And, sometimes you're just like, I don't want to have to fucking deal with contract negotiations every goddamn 3-4 years, 5 years. Why not just sign a 10-year deal, stick out the rest of my career with this team? I have so much money guaranteed. And you're already a legend in Kansas City. You could go down as the Tom Brady of Kansas City. I don't know. I just feel like I don't hate the move. And I know it's probably not the smartest because you could probably leverage every 4 or 5 years because the annual salary for quarterbacks is going up and up and up. And you could, but just why bother? Just get that guaranteed money, not have to worry about it, and play your ass off for that team and you're already a legend, but become a god in Kansas City. And maybe turn them into the Patriots of, the next phase of the 21st century. Let's talk Giants. Let's do it really quick. The 2010s stunk. Let's just say that. We were tied for the 24th winningest team of the 2010s. This is bottom of the barrel. And if that has you feeling pretty down, MetLife Stadium just ranked among the worst in the NFL, which I don't really care about. And I only wrote this down because it was I almost want our stadium to be horrible. We don't want to have a good stadium for opposing teams to come and be oh, it's how beautiful. Isn't this awesome? No, you want your stadium to stink because you want opposing teams to come in and be I hate playing in this place. So I'm actually all for our stadium being ranked among the worst. I mean, you look at it from the outside and it is ugly to look at, but that's kind of goes in line with New Jersey and the whole Giants mentality. We're not supposed to be brash or pretty to look at. We're supposed to be ugly and gnarled. That's just the psyche of the team. That's how we should portray ourselves. PFF put out this tweet. Julian Love has a knack for getting his hands on the football. Love has recorded 28 pass breakups his last 2 seasons as a corner at Notre Dame and 2 while playing the final 6 weeks of his rookie season. He's the most underrated player for the Giants. And with what's going on with DeAndre Baker and what's developed with him, it's probably looking like Love will be in contention for the second corner spot, even though he's not, I guess his 40 speed is comparable with Baker, but it's you should not use I saw that tweet circulating, which is a list of all the corners that the Giants have in their 40 speeds. And that was the determining factor of who should be the second corner. No. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we might as well get into the DeAndre Baker thing. I saw this tweet. If DeAndre Baker ends up being released, his draft selection will go down as one of the worst in Giants history. trading 3 picks to move back into the first round and then getting released after one season. Giants will lose $2.3 million in cap space in the process. Pat Leonard broke the news, I guess, that he got copies of the search warrant that said that there was Instagram DMs, possibly video. There's evidence that Baker and Dunbar paid off witnesses. And people, hate Pat Leonard because he stinks. But like when the guy's talking about search warrants that he has seen and that we have evidence of, it's kind of hard to argue. That's like, you don't want to believe him, but at the same time, I've said for a long time, this whole thing seems super goddamn fishy. No matter what the lawyer says, and I know the lawyers come back hot. There's been a couple lawyers coming back hot saying this is defamatory and whatever to DeAndre, but it's like, it's just not looking good. So, and there are reporters saying that sources say, they didn't invite him to virtual meetings or virtual camp or whatever, and that he probably won't be on the roster this year, which is just unfucking believable, dude. Unbelievable that you would just throw away. He's not throwing away his career though. Cause like, it's all right. Maybe he goes to jail. Maybe he doesn't, but he's not playing for the Giants. And I can just see him ending up with some other team, probably the Cowboys or the fucking Eagles or the Redskins, and coming back and playing like good. I tweeted out that he makes, Eli Apple look like Deion Sanders. I just cannot believe we keep on whiffing on these first round corners, man. And like pretty high grades look like they could translate to the pro level and just like fucking don't even last like more than 2 seasons. It's just outrageous. So I think the game plan moving forward, and I forget who said this, but like don't draft any more corners in the first round. Just, every 3 years, just pay for Bradbury, for Jenkins, just every 2 or 3 years, just pony up for, whenever your CB1 contract runs out for that, just pony up for whoever the next big free agent is at the corner position. And hopefully that'll carry you. Cause it's just like, that one hurts. The Leonard Williams trade is looking like a goddamn bust, especially after, it's been revealed that they couldn't reach a long-term extension. That probably means that he'll play this year, whatever this year is, and if he does gangbusters, then he goes in the free agent market and it goes beyond whatever we can afford for him. And if he doesn't, we just paid fucking $16 million and lost a bunch of draft picks for him. Ugh. That was a bad one. I gotta say it. Unless he comes out and just plays like out of his mind and the Giants win a Super Bowl. And it's like, all right, well, he was a big factor in the Super Bowl for this. I just don't see that. I don't see that happening this year. I want it to happen, obviously, but I just don't see it happening. So PFF also ranked the Giants O-line as 20th. They finished 17th in the regular season rankings last year. Nate Solder posted the worst grade of his career at 64.8 overall, allowing a league high 56 pressures and ranking 70th out of 89 qualifiers. Whoa. They believe that Andrew Thomas will be slotted in at right tackle. He's the highest rated tackle in the draft board, the only player to rank in the top 5 as both a pass and run blocker in the draft class. Matt Parrott had the number 6 overall grade. So don't forget about Matt Parrott. Right guard Zeitler, 76.4 overall grade, ranked 7th. Never graded below 73 and is ranked among the top 10 guards in the 5 last six seasons. But there's concerns that now he's peaked. And now he's on the decline because he's 30, whatever years old, 1 years old, 30, whatever. I don't know. I think he's a rock, and I think he's solid as fuck. So I think we'll be all right there. Will Hernandez graded just 58.4 last year to rank 57th out of 89 qualifiers. And then you have John Halapio and Spencer Pulley, who not great. So understandable how they feel about that. But there is talk that Nate Solder might opt out of this year, which means that we would not have to pay him, I believe. I don't know. This was like a random tweet I saw. So you could very easily see Andrew Thomas at left tackle, and then Matt Parrott at right tackle. And then you have Shane Lemieux slotted at center, which they didn't mention here, but I don't know. I still, for some reason, envision Lemieux at center. I don't know. But we're definitely higher than 20th, right? We finished 17th last year, and it was kind of like a ragtag. I don't know. The Cowboys' offensive line was ranked 3rd. Eagles were ranked 10th, and the Skins were ranked 29th. So, and yet people have us like winning less games than the Skins. Pooh, okay. Giants Wire said, should the Giants consider signing Antonio Brown? No, idiot. Vincent Rapisardi said that James Bradbury's fourth quarter stats in 2019, his passer rating was 35.4, completion percentage 50%, 0 touchdowns, 2 picks, and 6.3 yards per attempt. And of course, all the trolls came out and said, well, the Panthers were losing a lot in those games in the fourth quarter, and so teams didn't have to throw against them. There's always another side of the story. I'm going to skip over the 10 reasons the Giants will be a dumpster fire this season. Like, we don't need it. Like, we get it. Quick. Daniel Jones, Nate Solder, O-line, no pass rush, slow secondary, DeAndre Baker, Alec Rosas, Joe Judge, Gettleman. If you can keep up with that. But I really do think Daniel Jones is going to take another step in the right direction. There was a poll that Stephen Che from Barstool put out about, who is better, or who would you rather have, Daniel Jones or Sam Darnold? And like, surprisingly, it was Sam Darnold edged out Daniel Jones, which I don't get. But the most efficient RPO thrower in 2019 was Daniel Jones. That's the read pass option. He posted a 136.1 passer rating with 15 completions on 18 attempts for 140 yards, two touches, and no picks. And he had a lot of success with the RPO at Duke. And if you watch his high school highlights, he did there as well. So possible to see RPO more often with Jason Garrett calling the plays. I don't know. The best and worst case scenarios. So we'll finish up with this for the Giants. The best and worst case scenarios for each team. This is by Pro Football Focus yet again. The Giants, the 10th percentile outcome, 4-12. And if that happens, that's because Daniel Jones doesn't take a step forward. He continues to lead the league in turnover-worthy plays. He is one of 4 quarterbacks with 30-plus turnover-worthy plays and one of only 9 quarterbacks that take at least 40 sacks in the year. Yikes. And his internal clock stinks, and he's oblivious to bodies flying around him. So if he does not improve on that, we can look forward to a 4-12 season. The non-existent pass rush would also contribute to that, and the depth concerns at corner, which is exacerbated by DeAndre Baker probably not being around. So, which, the Logan Ryan question comes up again. And I've seen people be like, don't do it because you're going to pay a lot for like a short term, and he's not going to be around for when this team is actually going to be good. I still think it's a nice little stopgap, but I understand the cap space is tight. The 90th percentile outcome for the Giants, best case scenario, 9-7. Which is kind of deflating, but I would like to see a little higher record, but I'd still be happy with 9-7. I mean, we'd all be happy with 9-7. Best case scenario, though. Oof. Jones keeps it high end plays and ability to create with his legs, cuts down the mistakes. I can definitely see that happening. Shepard, Tate, Slayton, Ingram, Barkley all stay healthy. That's a tall order. I would love for that to happen, because if that does happen, I could see us doing better than fucking 9-7. Interior pass rush with Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence. Dexter Lawrence in year 2. Looking forward to that. Leonard Williams in a contract year. Although he was in a contract, I guess, I don't know. Maybe he'll put on a show and get that big money in the offseason. Not from us. James Bradbury, Blake Martinez, and Xavier McKinney give structure to the linebacking core and secondary. Yeah, I think they can, for sure. So I don't, like I said, when I broke down the schedule in 2020, I don't think 9-7 is that far out of a reach. I had us going 7-9, and I think there are 2 games that are winnable. PFF had the Cowboys worst case scenario 6-10, with their secondary being a huge factor that now that Byron Jones is left. Best case scenario for the Cowboys is 11-5, mostly because of Dak Prescott, their offensive line, obviously, the receiving core. Now that they have Cooper, Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb, which that makes me, it gives me a little bit of a panic attack. Hearing those 3 names, Ezekiel Elliott, obviously, and they are arguably one of the best offenses in the NFL, which we could be if we fucking stayed healthy. Eagles worst case scenario 5-11. Deshaun Jackson fails to help. Alshon Jeffrey keeps getting hurt. They have problems at the wideout. They have problems in the secondary. O-line is not exactly the dominant force it used to be. They lost Brandon Brooks and Jason Peters. So I think the Eagles are going to take a step back this year. PFF has their best case scenario as 10-6 with Wentz remaining healthy. Rieger, their draft pick, stretching defenses for Ertz to open things up for Ertz. And then they have obviously one of the most devastating 4-man pass rushers in the fucking league with Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, Brandon Graham, and Derek Barnett. And Malik Jackson is in that mix. Great. So yeah, defense is going to keep them in ball games. Who knows what their offense is able to do? I don't think they're 10-6. There, I said it. And then the Washington NFL football team, formerly known as the Redskins. Worst case scenario 5-11. They point out limited talent around Dwayne Haskins and his stagnation in his progress as a passer. Offensive line doesn't hold up, which they're ranked below the Giants at 29th. And none of the young options at receiver or tight end complement Terry McLaurin, who was a breakout last year. Best case scenario 10-6, which is like, I don't know about all that. Defensive line is loaded with first round picks. And yeah, I mean, they got Chase Young, Ryan Kerrigan, Montez Sweat, Jonathan Allen, Darren Payne, and Matt Ioannidis. Ugh. I do not envy our offensive line this year. You got to face a fucking the Cowboys front four, or the Cowboys defensive front, Redskins defensive front, Eagles defensive front. They're all just super badass. And then Haskins does a terrific job of limiting the number of times he put the ball in harm's way. His passing grade from week 11 through 17 was ranked 10th in the NFL. So he improved towards the end of the last season. In terms of the best case scenarios, it looks like the Saints, Seahawks, and Niners will probably go back. Will definitely go back to the playoffs, with the Saints winning the South and the Seahawks or the Niners winning the West. In the AFC, the Ravens, Chiefs, and Titans have the best of the best case scenarios. So there you have it. It's another show in the bag. Season 2 debut, Season 2 premiere. Clocking in at a cool 3 hours. No big deal. Dad, I love you. And if you're watching down from up on high, I don't know. I hope you're proud. But you were proud when I was doing nothing. So this has got to be something, right? And if you could pass along some kind of cryptic message on how to handle my goddamn tropical storm of a daughter, much appreciated. So that's all we got. I'll catch you fools on the flip next week. Adios, muchachos.